Infinite projection room begins with the projection of Ultron's world destruction. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601, The Birth of Superman. Image continues. General Zod walked into the Kryptonian exploration ship. He placed his control key into the main control panel and started the ship. The master key has been approved and the creation chamber is loading. Sir. Stop Zod. The man's voice sounded behind Zod. While it's not too late. Even if you die, you are not going to give up preaching to me? Zod looked at the man and asked, Al, my old friend. The Phantom of Jor-El slowly walked towards Zod. Even though he was just a consciousness, he couldn't do anything at all. I won't let you get the secret book like this. Your master key authority has been revoked. Now, this spaceship is mine. Our people can coexist with the people on Earth. So we should suffer for decades like your son? You are exterminating a race. Yes, Zod admitted without hesitation. And I'm talking about the benefits of this to a ghost. We are all ghosts, Zod. Haven't you realized it yet? Your Krypton is finished. Spaceship, detect this invading intelligent life form. Detect it. You will fail. Then destroy it quickly. Zod turned his head to look at Jor-El and said, I'm tired of your talk. Shutting my mouth won't change any facts. He's twice as strong as you. He will end it all. I promise you. Hearing Jor-El's words, General Zod suddenly walked over and asked, tell me, you have Jor-El's memories and conscience, but have you experienced his pain? I'm going to take the tome from your son's body, and I'm going to rebuild Krypton with his bones. Zod pressed the button to clear the data about Jor-El on the spacecraft. Do you still want to have a good talk with him now? I do. Clark was silent for a short time, and then continued. General Zod just wants to rebuild Krypton, that's right, but he used the wrong means. I think I can put him on the right path for a while. You have to understand that a person's worldview cannot be changed by just one or two words. Strange said, especially if it's a bit offensive to say this, I'll just say it directly. Kryptonians are born because of the secret code. They have been planned by the secret code from the moment they were born. Although the formation of the worldview is mostly acquired, innate genes also have a large part of the reason. Your biological father, Mr. Jor-El, can rationally look at the problems of Kryptonians and Earthlings to a large extent because of the rational thinking of scientists. But General Zod is different. General Zod himself is a soldier, and his way of thinking is different from Jor-El. What's more, he is branded with the mark of defending Krypton in his genes. Now that the old Krypton is destroyed, creating a new Krypton has become Zod's lifelong mission. Let alone one or two words, even if it's thousands of words, it's impossible for a person to easily give up his lifelong goal. What's more, even Jor-El, who was a good friend of Zod, failed to persuade Zod, and was even killed by Zod. Do you think you can really persuade General Zod, who has been possessed by the devil, with your identity as the son of an old friend? And in Metropolis, Northern Command, this is Lightning 1, requesting permission to launch the Hound missile. Lightning 1, permission to launch. Please send a battle damage assessment. Over. The Hound missile flew towards the world engine, but the next second it went out of control and smashed into the crowd in Metropolis. The electronic equipment is in chaos. The gravity field pulls the missile down. We need to get closer to the target. The missiles fell all over Metropolis. People fled desperately, and there was a figure in the crowd, moving against the crowd, picked up the little girl on the ground, held the girl in his arms, and ran to a safe place. That's you, Mr. Wayne? Yes. Bruce Wayne's face didn't show any happy expression. That was a Hound missile. The damage to the building, caused by a few missiles, was not a big deal. He could just pay for the repairs, but the civilians accidentally injured by the missiles. The tentacles composed of metal particles burst out from the world engine and killed Clark. The military fighter plane was shot down and collided with a building. Is there the logo of the Wayne Group on that building? It seems so. Bruce's face was as black as the bottom of a pot at this moment. It was not because he felt sorry for a few buildings, but mainly because of this level of battle. Why didn't they evacuate people first? Exclamation mark. And there are so many ordinary people. They are all fleeing. They are all innocent ordinary people. There are fathers and mothers of children, children of the elderly, husbands or wives of others, or brothers and sisters. They should have lived peacefully in the metropolis, instead of facing the threat of war like now. Clark was knocked down by the tentacles, and stood up with difficulty under the gravity of Krypton. In the ruins nearby, the reporter of the newspaper was also trapped in the reinforced concrete slab. Perry. Save me, Perry. I won't leave. Editor-in-Chief Perry held Na's hand, then picked up the steel bar from the side and shouted, "Longbottom, come and help me." Another staff member of the newspaper, Longbottom, gritted his teeth in the face of the threat of death and finally chose to rush to help. This is the courage of mankind. Push harder. Push harder. It's getting closer and closer to us. Push harder. Under the heavy pressure of the world engine transformation, Clark raised one hand upwards and tried his best to rush out of here, but he couldn't do it. The beam of light emitted by the world engine and the smoke and dust splashed in all this seemed to form a cross, and at the lowest end of the cross was Clark. Clark slowly lowered his raised hands and gradually stood up straight. Perry grabbed Na's hand and tried to pull her out. Wanda, so beautiful. Yes, from the perspective of an observer, this moment is really beautiful. Put down your hands, raise your head, and move towards the light. Putting both hands down represents a normal birth of the baby, while raising one hand represents a difficult birth. This moment seems to be a metaphor for the birth of a brand new superhero, Superman. Clark roared and flew into the sky. He overcame the environment of Krypton. At this moment, the Man of Steel was born. Boom. Chapter 602, True Grip. The blue-red figure rushed into the world engine like a cannonball. A violent explosion sounded. Because of gravity, the rocks floating in the air fell down, and the huge world engine broke into pieces, and finally emitted a dazzling light. The world engine stopped running, and the helicopter on standby quickly approached the target. "General, we have broken through the red line of warning. There is no problem. Good luck, Guardian. Load ammunition. Approved to enter the launch state. We have reached the last moment. Now it depends on you and Hamilton. They are determined to die. But why bring Louise? She is just an ordinary reporter. She has served in the army." Bruce said, "When I investigated Clark, I also investigated the information of people related to him, including Louise who released Clark's information. She once served in the army and served as a military reporter to Iraq and other battlefields. After a head-on contact with the world engine, Clark fainted again. When he woke up, a scorching sun was slowly rising from the coast. Clark stretched out his right hand and reached towards the sun. Slowly shook hands, as if holding the sun in his hands. We'll shake the sun. Son of the sun, God on earth. Superman Clark. Son of the sun, God on earth." Clark felt a little embarrassed when he heard the evaluation of himself in the screening room. He was essentially a simple farm boy. "Clark, you at that time were absolutely worthy of this title, both in terms of strength and heart. But please remember that no matter how great the gods are, they were created by humans. I will keep it in mind." The video continues. Aim at that plane. 2 particle cannons were extended from the Krypton exploration ship. Under the order of General Zod, they aimed at the Earth's transport ship. On it was the ship Clark came from, that is, the Phantom engine. "Stop." A red and blue figure rushed directly into the interior of the ship. Clark raised his head suddenly, with red light flashing in his eyes. This was a warning and a threat. This was the pre-swing of the heat ray laser. "If you destroy this ship, you will destroy Krypton." General Zod saw Clark's heat ray and knew that he definitely had the ability to destroy the spacecraft. There was a creation chamber on the spacecraft. Once the creation chamber was lost, even if General Zod got the secret book in Clark's body, it would be useless. Because as a general, Zod had no idea how to create a creation chamber. This skill was not in his DNA. Under General Zod's increasingly horrified eyes, Clark still put away the heat ray. "It's okay." Bruce finally breathed a sigh of relief. He said, "If you destroy this spaceship, especially the creation chamber, then it will be really over. This is a negotiation. The creation chamber is a hostage, and you can be said to be the robber. If you, as a robber, kill the hostage, the police will lose their scruples and will definitely attack directly. But I think I will destroy the creation chamber in the end." Clark said, the creation chamber is Zod's obsession. As long as the creation chamber is still there, General Zod will not give up the idea of rebuilding Krypton. Then let them change to another planet. Janitor said, I have seen many interstellar civilizations, and they all have many satellite planets. There should be no spacium matter on Mars in that world. Hikaru said, and the Kryptonians should not be allergic to spacium. You can talk to him, and let him take the equipment to Mars to rebuild Krypton. Thanos, if it is for the good of the Earth, my suggestion is to kill them all. At Clark Kent Clark Kent. Thanos, I'm not picking a fight or making trouble. This is the conclusion I came to after serious thinking. Let me ask you, Clark, why was General Zod exiled to the Phantom Zone? Clark Kent, because he rebelled and killed the elders and senators. Thanos, then why did he rebel, and why did he kill the elders and senators? Clark Kent, he said that the elders are leading Krypton to destruction because of excessive mining of the Krypton core. Thanos, then why did the old Krypton mine the Krypton core? Clark Kent, for resources? Thanos, yes, resources. I think the development of Krypton is problematic. It is a predatory civilization. For the entire macro ecosystem of cosmic civilization, the old Krypton civilization is a tumor. Thanos, a malignant tumor. Thanos, constantly asking for things, but never knowing how to give back. After giving up plundering external energy, he could only start to ask for energy from his own planet. In the end, the planet was overwhelmed and completely destroyed along with the old Krypton. Thanos, Clark, then you say, if General Zod, a radical, revives the Kryptonian civilization, what will the revived Kryptonian civilization be like? Clark's face changed, and he instantly realized the problem. Yes, the fundamental reason why General Zod was exiled is nothing else. It's because he wants to restore the old Kryptonians' plundering way of survival. From the perspective of the Kryptonians and General Zod, this is right. This is for the future of the planet, and for the future of civilization, to plan for survival and continuation. This is right. Even Clark and Bruce can't say this is wrong. But from the perspective of other plundered planets, Krypton is an absolute invader. There are countless planets that have been destroyed by Krypton, and General Zod is ready to go back to the old path of Krypton. In other words, once Krypton is rebuilt, Krypton, which is ruled by General Zod, will become a huge threat. Because they don't know when Krypton's energy extraction machine will fly over their heads. Bruce breathed a sigh of relief. He also thought about this problem. In his opinion, the entire Krypton is a threat to the Earth. He is an extreme human racist. In other words, his principle of not killing is only aimed at humans. Whether it is Clark, the Kryptonian, or Diana, or the legendary Atlantis, they are all aliens to Bruce. Even if the other party looks no different from humans, they are still a huge threat in Bruce's mind, and are objects that need to be planned and prepared. Obviously, if General Zod is allowed to rebuild Krypton, it will be a huge threat to the entire Earth in the future. I will think about it tomorrow. The subscriptions in the past few days are too ugly. I can't even keep last month's manuscript fee this month. After the end of Man of Steel, should I watch Dawn of Justice first or let them go back and send Zod away? Chapter 603, Zod's Fury. Clark was caught in an endless tangle. He was the son of Krypton and the son of Earth. As the son of Krypton, he hoped that his home planet could be revived, but as a son of Earth, he could not put his second home in danger for the sake of his first home. Peter and the others looked at Clark, not knowing what to do. Except for Clark, there was no one else in the entire screening room who had experienced a similar situation. As the saying goes, one should not advise others to be generous without experiencing others' suffering. If you don't experience this kind of thing yourself, how can you give Clark useful advice from Clark's simplest perspective? The video continues. You will destroy Krypton. Faced with General Zod's roar, Clark stopped the laser in his eyes, but in the next second, he said to General Zod, Krypton has its own destiny. Did my future self choose Earth? Hearing this, how could Clark not know what decision his future self had made? He shouted that Krypton had its own destiny, which meant that the destiny of Krypton was already destroyed, and the Earth could not be destroyed because of Krypton. Red lasers poured out directly from Clark's eyes, and the high temperature lasers instantly split the entire spacecraft in two. On the other side of the human transport plane, Fyra flew directly into the transport plane and activated the Washang. We meet again. Colonel Hardy looked at the female alien. Last time, he was in that environment and was ready to fight with the other party with a knife, thinking that he would die with dignity, but he didn't expect to be saved by Clark and save his life. So now, you give it to Luda. Colonel Hardy turned around and ran without hesitation. Last time, he had a knife fight because there was no hope. Now he has another mission. Fyra followed closely, and on the other side, Dr. Amy, who was beaten and vomited blood by Fyra, trembled and climbed up from the ground. I still have mission to complete. Dr. Amy threw away her glasses that were about to break and trembled as she crawled to the side of the spaceship. There was only one step left. As long as she completed the last step, she would succeed. Dr. Amy's mouth was bleeding, and she rushed over and pressed the master key. Dr. Amy watched the Phantom engine start up and died with a smile on her face. The family emblem of the L family, which has an S symbol and represents hope, was inserted into the spacecraft. The emblem of the L family represents hope. In the control seat of the transport ship, Colonel Hardy said to Fyra, who was about to know her life, to die in a proper way is to die gloriously. Fyra didn't know why the earthling in front of her repeated what she had said, but the next second, the transport ship began to tilt downward, and below was the world engine. The hymn of mankind is the hymn of courage. They, from the beginning, never intended to go back alive. This is the courage of ordinary people. This is the battle of ordinary people. As ordinary people, Colonel Hardy and Dr. Amy use their actual actions to prove one thing to Fyra, the Kryptonians, and the various life forms in the screening room. That is, the courage of human beings is no worse than that of any other race. The transport plane exploded, and all the human soldiers on it were hidden and sacrificed, while the Kryptonians were transported back to the Phantom Zone due to the impact of the Phantom engine. Louis was not sucked into the Phantom Zone, because the Phantom Zone, as the prison of Krypton, would only absorb people with special characteristics into the Phantom Zone. That is, the group of people who had been detained in the Phantom Zone. At this time, Clark flew over and picked up Louis. With the BO force field, super speed, and super flight fully turned on, he finally got rid of the attraction of the Phantom Zone and brought Louis back to the ground. The two hugged each other tightly, and the feeling of life and death far exceeded ordinary emotions. The two hugged each other tightly, but at this moment, Clark heard something, and his body floated and flew into the smoke. General Zod was wearing black armor and knelt on his knees. He looked at Clark, who was flying over, holding a handful of ash in his hand, and said to Clark, look at this. General Zod's hand holding the ash slowly fell, and the ash scattered, just like General Zod's heart, that wanted to rebuild Krypton at that moment, drifting away with the wind. We could have built another Krypton on this ruin, but you chose humans instead of us. I exist to protect Krypton. An indescribable expression appeared on General Zod's face, but everyone could see the existence of an emotion in that extremely complex expression. Despair. This is my only purpose, since I was born. As a general who defends Krypton, protecting the people of Krypton, and protecting the civilization of Krypton. This is his meaning. Now, it's gone, all gone. Even if he got the secret book in Clark's body, what would it matter? It's useless. The creation chamber has been destroyed. Even if he got the secret book, it would be impossible to give birth to new Kryptonians. And the spacecraft and the world engine were also destroyed, so he couldn't rebuild the Earth into a second Krypton. His goal, everything he had, his obsession, were all gone. And everything I did, no matter how violent or cruel, was for the best interests of my people. My heart and my actions are as clear as a mirror, and everything I do is just. Now, I have no people, my soul. Zod's voice began to become solemn, and his words began to be filled with anger and hatred, just taken away by you. General Zod kicked his legs, and broke through the speed of sound in an instant. With the sonic boom, Clark was knocked hundreds of meters away by General Zod's Iron Mountain Lean. I will make you pay the price. General Zod walked towards Clark step by step, venting his anger at Clark. He wanted to return to Clark exactly what Clark had done to him. Everything you did to me, I will return to you intact. I will make them bear my wrath. I will give your people what you did to my people. I will take away all the humans you saved from you, leaving none behind. You are a beast, Zod. I will stop you. Clark floated up from the ground, his body lying flat in midair, aiming at Zod, breaking the sound barrier, and crashing into Zod. Boom. The two Kryptonians collided with each other, and the terrifying shockwave spread in all directions with the two of them as the center. This is the War of Gods. Chapter 604, Air Combat. The huge shockwave tore the surrounding land apart. Everything in the area, centered on Zod and Clark, was destroyed by this devastating shockwave. The two of them fought all the way into the building from the ground, as if they were possessed by the demolition office. During this period, General Zod even awakened the same heat ray ability as Clark. After a brief discomfort, General Zod shot two extremely hot heat ray lasers from his eyes. The laser easily destroyed a building, and it was the office building of the Wayne Group. After Clark flew out of the building, he fought with General Zod again. General Zod is a general after all. He may not be able to beat the scientist Jor-El, but he is more than enough to deal with Clark. At least he is better than Clark in terms of skills. Every punch General Zod throws will bring a circle of vibration, that is a sonic boom. Clark was knocked flying by General Zod's punch. When General Zod came over and prepared to punch him again, Clark seized the opportunity and punched General Zod in the waist. The terrifying force not only knocked General Zod flying, but also made the armor, which was already damaged, become precarious. Clark rushed up and hugged General Zod and threw him over his shoulder, then grabbed a car on the side of the road and smashed it on Zod. If an ordinary person was hit by this, it would be considered as turning into meat paste, but General Zod threw away the car that had shrunk by half in length, as if nothing had happened, kicked Clark away with a roundhouse kick, and then stuck to Clark's body and added an uppercut. Clark was knocked flying into the air and then floated directly in the air, staring closely at General Zod on the ground. Peter saw this scene and remembered the tragic situation when he was beaten by the alien beast before. He couldn't help asking, "Mr. Hikaru, I suddenly have a question. You see, when encountering this kind of attack with a knockback effect, we as Ultraman can also fly, so why have we never thought of using this method to float up and adjust our body shape or dodge the attack when we are knocked back?" After a brief contemplation, Hikaru replied, "I'm just a scientist. How can I understand anything about fighting? Logan, I suddenly feel that the methods we discussed before are a bit far-fetched for Clark. I think a large part of the reason why Zod can suppress Clark is due to Zod's skills. As long as we find a way to improve Clark's skills, he won't be beaten so badly." Captain America, I think so too. The other methods you proposed are a bit far-fetched for Clark, whether it is borrowing power or making equipment, but as long as you change the correct force technique, you can burst out several times the power. Diana Prince, leave it to me. I'm the best warrior in Paradise Island. Let me train Clark. Bruce Wayne, please don't teach him the correct force technique. He can punch 1,000 tons. The video continues. There is only one way to end this. General Zod looked up at Clark flying in the air, his eyes wide open like copper bells. He roared, "Either you die or I die." Zod kicked his legs and jumped more than 10 meters, then stuck his body to the building. All his limbs were firmly inserted into the concrete wall of the building, using the wall as a force point. His limbs climbed quickly. He can't fly yet. Seeing this, Clark, who didn't have any good fighting methods, flew down directly aiming at General Zod. He wanted to collide with General Zod with his head. The two collided, and the unlucky one was naturally the building, which was broken in half because of the shock wave generated by the collision between the two. General Zod was blown to the roof of a building that was still under construction. Clark followed him. When Clark came to the roof and looked around for General Zod, he saw General Zod holding a steel plate and hitting Clark. "Mr. Clark," Peter said to Clark, "you shouldn't fly directly to the roof here. You can fly, but Zod can't. Flying is your advantage. You should expand your advantage. At least you can use the advantage of flying to observe the terrain. You obviously have a better choice when you fly to the roof, that is, fly to a higher position and look down from above to observe the terrain on the roof." Clark was stunned. After a brief thought, he suddenly felt that what Peter said made sense. "You also know this? Well, The light of Noah not only gave me strength, but also a lot of combat experience, whether it is land battle, air battle, naval battle, or weapon fight, long range combat, close combat, all of them. And it was the same when Ultraman Taro fought against Belia in the previous Ultra Galaxy. He flew high to check the opponent's position before attacking. I just learned a little bit from him. The video continues. Seeing Zod flying over, Clark didn't have time to think too much. His eyes flashed red and melted half of the steel bars. But General Zod went up and punched him, knocking Clark away and crashing into the sign with some words written on it behind him. Safety in production. 106 days. Okay, now the 1 and 6 have been knocked off, leaving only 1-0. I'm a soldier, Carl. General Zod threw away the steel bar in his hand and said to Clark, I have spent my whole life training to control my senses. Have you practiced? On the farm. Accompanied by Zod's roar, the armor on General Zod's body broke, revealing the black battlesuit Zod was wearing. And the next second, he took off on the spot. General Zod perfectly reproduced Clark's current skills: indestructible powerful super senses, heat rays, and flying. Clark roared and flew up and knocked General Zod away. At this moment, the two started an air battle. One punch down, it was flying backwards for several kilometers. Clark used 3 consecutive moves to hit Zod with the farmer's 3 punches to make him stiff. Then he realized that, although he had learned to fly, he was not as good as Clark. General Zod did not rush forward in the stiff state but retreated, taking Clark to shuttle between high-rise buildings. Below, there was a crowd. Why don't you lead Zod away from Metropolis? Strange asked. If we change the battlefield, at least we can reduce some accidental injuries, right? I have to make a flexible schedule for evening self-study tonight. If I don't update 10,000 today, I'll do it tomorrow. I really don't want to postpone it. Chapter 605 Zod, Carl. If you really love these humans, then remember them. I can say that I destroyed Krypton directly at that time. Clark's face was full of hesitation. Even though he had seen what he would do in the future, he didn't want to destroy the hope of reviving Krypton. Although Earth was his second home, Krypton was also his first home. If possible, he really hoped that Kryptonians and Earthlings would go hand in hand, just like his biological father Jor-El said, and he would become a bridge of hope connecting Earth and Krypton. Zod, you know what he is thinking. No matter what he does, his goal is to protect Krypton, even if it means killing countless people. And I destroyed it. After I destroyed Zod's lifelong goal, he had only 2 ideas at that time. 1. Kill me, and 2. Kill other people in Metropolis. Even if I led Zod away from Metropolis, Zod would fly back to Metropolis. So in order to avoid other people in Metropolis from being implicated, I could only protect Zod in Metropolis while fighting Zod. Image continues. Clark and Zod fought from the sky to the ground, and then back to the sky, and finally demolished 2 buildings. Every time the two collided, a terrifying shock wave would be created. The ground would be destroyed, the buildings would collapse, and in the sky, the shock wave would blow away all the clouds. Finally, the two wrestled all the way to the atmosphere, to outer space, and into the universe. Then they smashed Bruce's private satellite. We'll do this next time. Bruce said to Clark, if we really have to fight next time, you should be prepared for space combat, and take them to outer space to fight. Whether it's buildings or people on Earth, they can't stand your tossing. Okay, that satellite. It's okay. I already had 7 private satellites. Bruce was particularly generous about the property losses caused by the destruction of the satellite and the demolition of his building in Metropolis. More than a dozen satellites have been arranged for launch preparations. I don't lack satellites. Damn, why do I feel like I'm being shown off? I have also considered building an artificial intelligence defense satellite and using this method to build a steel wall to defend against the enemy. Tony said to Bruce beside him, I built an artificial intelligence armor, Veronica, which is controlled by the Veronica satellite and has a modular structure. This way, it can provide ultra long range support. It also has another name, the Anti-Hulk armor. It was originally intended to deal with overly powerful enemies in the Mad Hulk. You have also seen it in the video of Avengers 3, Infinity Snap. It is the Anti-Hulk armor driven by Dr. Banner. Although it may be a bit offensive, I think your method is a bit laborious. Bruce asked back, why don't you convert the armor into an unmanned one? If so, not only can you not consider the anti-shock system and ergonomics, but you can also load more firepower and save more energy to provide better endurance. It's unreliable. I've thought about using unmanned armor before. You've also seen the story of Infinite Ultron. The beginning of Infinite Ultron is the beginning of our world. Although Ultron has been destroyed, I'm still worried. Maybe you don't have to be obsessed with artificial intelligence. You can build an intelligent production line to produce unmanned mechas. It's not expensive, just a few billion. After all, if you don't have to consider the driver of your mecha, the cost can be reduced a little. You can even develop it in the direction of self-destructive infantry. I kind of understand what you mean. Tony's inspiration was activated by Bruce, and he said, I have always insisted that my Iron Man suit must be driven by me. The main reason is that I don't trust other people to drive it. But now think about it, I'm Iron Man, and the Iron Man suit is not. Remember Bumblebee? I'm now fighting side by side with him, or letting him go out on patrol when I'm not around to solve some problems. Maybe I can let Bumblebee be the queen of this hive. Queen bee. Yes, a mechanical hive. As long as I want, it can instantly start to manufacture mechanical worker bees, that is, robots, at any time. Then, because these robots do not need operators to control them inside their bodies, they do not need to be made into human form. I can completely choose a better body shape instead of sticking to the human form because of myself. The human body has too many weaknesses compared to other animals. I can completely design it into the shape of an animal, such as a spider or a bat. And a big part of the reason why your mecha can't be mass produced is that the workmanship is too fine, because it has to protect the flesh and blood under the steel. When your body is not in the iron armor, you can find a cheaper mass produced work. No. Tony rejected this idea without hesitation. Tony Stark's equipment must be the best and most excellent mass-produced machine, even if it is a mass-produced machine. Okay, but you can update the data and build to quantum computers. Let them calculate and evolve on their own. To be precise, evolution. The biggest problem I'm facing now is something similar to Infinite Ultron. Listening to the conversation between the two billionaires, I don't know whether I should be shocked by their ideas or their generosity. Image continues. After successfully crashing into Bruce's satellite, Zod directly picked up the satellite and aimed it at Clark and smashed it. Just when Clark was resisting the satellite, Zod seized Clark's visual blind spot and directly crashed through the satellite and crashed into Clark. The satellite fragments and Clark fell towards the Earth together. In the friction of the atmosphere, the satellite quickly rubbed and heated up and finally turned into a fire meteor in the sky. On the other side of the city, a world's richest man who did not want to reveal his name was holding a little girl and staring, watching all this happen. Zod and Clark wrestled and finally fell into a bank. The stone pillars used to decorate the bank were not as strong as foam boards at this moment. Zod wanted to get up just after he fell, but was held down by Clark. In the end, Clark used his love to lock the 7 days lock to desperately restrain General Zod's movements and prevent him from hurting ordinary people in the bank. Looking at the humans in the bank, who were either fleeing or frightened to the point of their legs being weak and unable to escape, Zod's expression was extremely hideous, and the red light in his eyes gradually revealed, Carl, if you really love these humans, then remember them. Chapter 606, The Man at the Top of the Food Chain in the Cinema. General Zod's eyes emitted a fiery yellow high-temperature ray, which shot straight at the ordinary people on the side. The terrifying power of the laser was not inferior to the instantaneous destructive power of ordinary grenades. What was even more terrifying was that this attack was continuous, and the innocent passers-by who were involved in this battle had weak legs and could only move their bodies away from the laser with all their might. Stop! Clark screamed in pain. He already knew what Zod was doing, so he tried his best to stop Zod now. Zod completely gave up defense at this moment and was determined to shoot the laser in the direction of the group of ordinary people. All of this hinted at one thing. That is, Zod no longer wants to live. He is hinting to Clark to kill him. Clark heard this, and his face became even more painful because he seemed to have guessed the ending. Why? Janitor asked puzzledly. Shouldn't all things try their best to avoid death? Why would Zod actively seek death? Janitor, do you remember what Zod's responsibilities are? Strange looked at this second generation god and asked, Zod's responsibility as a general of Krypton. Well, to guard Krypton and protect the people of Krypton. Then do you think Clark is a citizen of Krypton in Zod's eyes? Yes. Janitor gave the answer very quickly. Based on Zod's previous performance, it can be seen that the other party is a person who puts blood first. Clark is not only a pure Kryptonian, but also his nephew. Clark's brother's father, Jor-El, was a comrade in arms of Zod before parting ways with Zod. Zod's adjutant Fyra is also from the El family, so in Zod's eyes, brother Clark is definitely an orthodox son of Krypton. Then do you think Zod will protect Clark? Logically, yes, but they have parted ways. Brother Clark destroyed the creation chamber on the Kryptonian spaceship, making it impossible for Zod to rebuild Krypton, and even his men were driven back to the Phantom Zone. Now Zod is completely alone. He said that brother Clark destroyed everything of his, so he has to destroy everything of Clark. Gandalf, there is a word in this world called change of heart, and another word called awakening. Strange explained. Zod suddenly realized that Clark, who had been fighting with him, was actually a Kryptonian, but all his efforts, his hopes of reviving Krypton and rebuilding Krypton were destroyed by Clark. Because of this, Zod is destined not to shake hands with Clark, but he also realizes that, even if he kills Clark, it will be useless, because even if he kills Clark, Krypton will not be revived. If Clark is left, maybe tens of millions of years later, the Earth will become the second Krypton. Then there is no need to seek death. Thanos, it is necessary. Zod will never coexist with Clark. Because Clark is his biggest enemy, but at the same time Clark is the one he wants to protect, and that illusory hope makes Zod fall into extreme pain. Thanos. In the end, he chose to force Clark to kill himself, and let Clark end his life with his own hands. Thanos. He no longer wants to live. No matter how he persuades, it will be useless. The video continues. Zod. Stop. Clark fell to his knees with a sad face. He killed Zod, the last of his people in this world. This was different from sending Fyra and her group to the Phantom Zone. This was the first time Clark had killed someone with his own hands, and even killed a living being with his own hands. Before this, let alone a person, he had never killed even a chicken. But who would have thought that the first time he killed a living being was to kill the last of his people? Clark's throat seemed to be blocked by something. He sobbed, his face full of pain. In the end, he could only vent his emotions by shouting. Even his shouting had to be controlled, because if he shouted with all his strength, at least no one in this block could find a complete body. This was a desperate roar after a difficult decision, and a sad cry in endless pain. Seeing this, Louis knew that, no matter what he said now, he could not soothe Clark's inner pain, so he could only hug him, hugging this poor man who had lost his people. If I can, I really don't want this to happen. No one wants this, Clark. Peter said to Clark, but it doesn't matter, all this hasn't happened yet, right? We are fully capable, and have the opportunity, to modify this tragic future. That's right. Hikaru patted Clark on the shoulder and said, believe me, you can always trust the projection room in terms of generosity and timely rain. The gift he gave to Ultra Father before was a big help. That's right. Peter continued, when you return to your world, the gift from the projection room will be sent to you, and that gift will definitely be of great use at that time. Yeah. Looking at Peter's sunny smile, Clark's inner pain was slightly relieved. Just as Peter said, all this is just a possibility in the future. Since it is just a possibility, there is a possibility of changing him. Peter also felt sorry for Clark. Although the other party is older than him, from the future point of view, Clark's complex composition can be ranked at the top of the entire projection room. In the projection room, one of the parents died, is just the basis. You can't even make up a complete pair of parents in the entire projection room. Oh my god, what kind of Bruce Wayne joke is this? Even if we include the live broadcast room, it seems that it was Loki who came in first who changed his fate. In this case, the death of one of the parents is not even a list. Janitor has a father, and for a moment, it seems that no one else can be thought of. Yes, Diana has both parents, but her father is almost the same as not having one, only a mother. My god, the screening room and the live broadcast room can actually gather a pair of parents. Congratulations, congratulations. Above this, it is the basic version of both parents dying. Not counting the live broadcast room, the screening room basically meets this condition, and Janet's father who may die at any time can be counted as half. Then there are the advanced people who show their magical powers on the basic version, such as Peter Parker. In addition to the death of both parents, he also lost his uncle who loved him deeply and treated him as his own son. But this is not miserable enough for him. At least he still has an aunt who loves him deeply, a girlfriend in the passionate love period, an old father-in-law who has been recognized by the other party, but refuses to recognize him because of his tsundere, a mother-in-law who likes him very much, a good brother and many teachers who recognize his talent. Clark is the man at the top of the food chain in the entire theater, not to mention his parents. His first home planet in terms of bloodline was blown up. Both his biological parents died, and then his adoptive father also died. Then his childhood was basically spent in the oppression and loneliness of bad boys. Because they were afraid that Clark, who could not control his own power, would hurt others, they did not even dare to let Clark make friends, resulting in Clark not having even a close friend. As for his girlfriend, maybe the future self and Lois Lane will have a chance, but now he is still an older bachelor and has no girlfriend at all. And because of the instigation of the world's richest man who made billions, he has never seen Lois Lane again. The most terrible thing is that in the future, in order to save the Earthlings, he personally killed the only blood relative of his clan in this world. The component bought is full. The video continues. General Swanwick and his deputy drove the car, and the next second, an unmanned reconnaissance aircraft landed in front of him accurately. General Swanwick didn't panic, but got out of the car angrily with a look of wanting to curse. Are you crazy? Damn it. This unmanned reconnaissance aircraft is worth $12 million US. It was worth it. Clark folded his arms and fell to the ground and said to General Swanwick with a cold face, I know you want to find out where I usually live. Don't think about it. Then I ask you an obvious question. How do we know if you will betray humanity one day? Note 1. I grew up on Earth. General, I'm here to help others. Clark frowned and said, but I have my own ideas. You have to convince the politicians. Even if I tell them, why do you think they will listen? I don't know, General. Clark heard this and could only smile bitterly and then took off instantly with a sonic boom. General Swanwick looked helpless, turned his head, and saw that his adjutant was still looking at Clark, who was leaving with a smile on his face. This expression was very much like a girl thinking about love. Soldier, what are you laughing at? Nothing, General. General Swanwick sighed, feeling that this generation of Earthlings was really hard to lead, and gathered people with his adjutant to clean up the debris here. Note 1. I made a modification here, from will you betray America, to will you betray humanity, to improve the pattern. After all, General Swanwick is also a Martian hunter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607. Returning to reality. Janitor, Dad, I brought you some food. In a cemetery, Clark and Martha came to Jonathan's tombstone. He always believed that you would eventually achieve something, and when that day comes, you will be able to take on more responsibilities. Yeah, I really hope he can see all this. He saw it, believe me, Clark, he saw it. Martha smiled and asked, what do you think, or plan when you are not saving the world? I will find a job, and then keep a high enough alert. Clark smiled and responded, will people look at me differently, whether I go to a dangerous place, or look for answers? Superman, Man of Steel, and anyway, this world has such a powerful person, it is still too dangerous. It can be regarded as a retraction of the introduction. Bruce is now a big head. Although according to the usual style of the projection room, Zod wants to rebuild Krypton on Earth. It has to be involved, but relying on the power of the projection room to solve the problem is not his style as Bruce Wayne. There is a good saying in the Giant of Light that humans must rely on their own strength to defend the Earth, and for Bruce Wayne, it is to rely on his own strength to defend this planet and humans. Because he is Batman. Now start playing the Easter egg. After the Easter egg is played, enter the rest stage, the same as the last time. Easter egg play. Location. In a building under the name of Wayne Group. In the reporter's office of the Daily Planet. In front of Louis' desk. Hey, Louis, do you want to go to the game? I got 2 tickets. Longbottom said to Louis with 2 tickets. Please, how about a favor? Longbottom, I think if you go to hook those interns, the chance of success will be a little greater. Louis looked at Longbottom's bald head and said mercilessly. Longbottom grinned. He knew it would be this result, but the process still had to go through. Competition, do you want to go together? Longbottom immediately said to the intern who came to deliver information to Louis. Excellent location. Of course, the other party shook his head wildly in return. Longbottom was not discouraged by this, and prepared to continue to select the next victim. Longbottom, Ryan. Editor-in-Chief Perry brought a newcomer to Longbottom and Louis. This is a new special reporter. I hand it over to you. Give him more experience. Good luck, kid. Perry patted the newcomer on the shoulder and turned away. Hello. The newcomer wore glasses, a leather jacket, and a shoulder bag on his back. He shyly introduced himself to the 2 seniors. I'm the new reporter. My name is Clark Kent. Steve Longbottom. Longbottom waved the ticket in his hand and asked Clark, hey, buddy, let's go to the game together? Louis pushed Longbottom away and said to the newcomer, I'm Lois Lane. Welcome to this planet. It's a great honor, Louis. The 2 smiled at each other, and everything was self-explanatory. Easter egg, and so Longbottom just wants to find someone to watch the game with him? Who knows? Constantine stretched his body hard, moving away the fatigue caused by sitting for a long time. Are you going back? I'm not going back anyway. Constantine said, it's so comfortable here. Anyway, if I don't go back, time won't flow in my world. I'm going home then. Janitor said to the group, after sorting out the information in her mind. Dad will never imagine that I have made so many new friends. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, Janitor. Remember to say hello to your father for us. The light flickered, and Janitor returned to the place where she had left before. A crazy hunger filled Janitor's nerves just after returning to her own world. In the screening room helped Janitor suppress her hunger, but now that she had left the screening room, the feeling that had been suppressed once again swept her heart, even stronger. I could have injured the darkness, because I had never seen the light. For Janitor, who had already experienced the concept of being full, this feeling was like a blind person who had just experienced how beautiful the light was, and regained his blindness again. Janitor subconsciously wanted to return to the screening room, but she held back. She had other things to do. With a flash of light, a set of purple armor attached to Janitor, and then she soared into the sky, flying towards a spaceship in the deep space of the universe. In a huge spaceship, Galactus, the planet devourer with a hint of anger on his face, was selecting a poor guy as his dinner. For him, devouring planets is his job, and he does not eat one by one, but selects planets according to rules. When he chooses, he will send his Galactus messengers to the planet to announce this fact. Or he will also send his Galactus messengers to choose the planet that can be eaten by him. Galactus does not pay much attention to his daughter. In this universe, the one who can hurt Janitor is at least a good player among the fathers. Such a person can see the relationship between Janitor and himself at a glance, and will definitely not deliberately cause trouble for Janitor, except for the group of old bastards in the Council of the Elders of the Universe. However, he had also warned Janitor not to run to their territory. In addition, he sent Silver Shadow to follow Janitor. Silver Shadow was the one Galactus trusted the most among all the Galactus messengers. The others were more or less a little abnormal, and only Silver Shadow was a normal person. A hunger that was enough to drive ordinary people crazy filled Galactus's mind. For him, he had endured this feeling for tens of millions of years. No, tens of millions of years was nothing. He had endured this feeling for so long that he couldn't even remember it. Before that, he led his messengers to fight against the group of old bastards of the Cosmic Elders Council. Both sides won and lost, but he was obviously at a disadvantage. Originally, because of hunger, his combat effectiveness could not reach the peak. After the battle with the group of old bastards, he became even hungrier. And the group of old bastards did not accept death. With this characteristic, they were crazy about death in the whole universe. Because they could not die, they were crazy about death. Thinking of this, Galactus's face twitched, and his stomach became even hungrier. If he had 50% of his combat power in his prime before, now, he might only have 30%. If his messengers don't bring back news of planets that can be devoured, he might only have one layer left. Dad, open the door. The crisp girl's voice was transmitted into Galactus' mind with the help of cosmic energy. Ganata? Didn't that girl sneak out to play? Master, the lady had a meal on a planet ruled by Kree and suddenly had to rush back. Silver Shadow's voice also came into Galactus' mind through the cosmic energy channel. Dad, open the door. I brought you some delicious food. Galactus. Chapter 608, Cosmic Elders Council. Silver Surfer followed Janitor on his skateboard. He thought about the food on that planet for a moment. If that kind of food was offered to the Great Devourer, the planet would probably become a dish. Forget it. It was Janitor who offered it. It had nothing to do with him. Galactus calmed down and opened the wormhole to let Janitor and Silver Surfer in. Dad. Galactus was unmoved. Look at this. Janitor took out a card from his pocket. This card can summon the Tonkatsu Sushi. This is my gift to you, Dad. Galactus remained unmoved. Looking at Galactus with a cold face, Janitor was also a little discouraged. He had clearly followed what his elder brother and uncle had said, and brought the Tonkatsu Sushi that he himself was reluctant to eat to his father. Why did he still have such a cold and dead face? Thinking of this, Janitor couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. Then he felt wronged, very wronged, and then angry, very angry. HMPH. Janitor threw the card to the ground in anger and turned away. Master. Silver Surfer looked at Janitor, who turned away and flew into the universe, then looked at Galactus, somewhat at a loss. Follow her closely and be careful of the Council of Elders of the universe. They seem to have made some big moves recently. Yes, Master. When both of them left and he was alone in the control room, Galactus manipulated the cosmic energy to pick up the card, intending to put it next to the ultimate eraser. When the cosmic energy touched the card, Galactus instantly realized that something was wrong. This thing is not a product of this universe. Galactus, as a remnant of the previous universe, one of the 5 gods of creation of this universe, the Eternal Brother, and one of the oldest beings in the entire universe, although he was the worst, he definitely had this kind of vision. This thing is definitely not a product of this universe. Galactus was anxious and wanted to recall Janitor immediately, but at this moment, a terrifying torrent of information rushed into Galactus' mind. Even Galactus, who was at the level of the 5 gods of creation, was confused by this terrifying torrent of information for 3 or 5 Planck times. Then Galactus quickly integrated this information in 20 Planck times, eliminating a lot of useless nonsense. Galactus soon understood the origin of this thing and the owner behind it. Transcendent level. Galactus knew what this concept was, what transcendence was. That was a far higher existence than them, and they, the so-called 5 gods of creation, were not even insects in the eyes of the other party. It was like the gap between the characters in a book and the author. Galactus could not guess the purpose of the other party to build that kind of place, but judging from the information conveyed to him by the screening room, the other party not only had no malice, but also treated Janitor very well. This made Galactus breathe a sigh of relief. This can be said to be a great opportunity, and it fell from the sky. Galactus flipped through this kind of card. Food summoning card. Tangshan Sushi. Level. Gold normal. Effect. Summon a Tangshan Sushi. Introduction. A very big sushi. Enough for you to eat for a long time. Use. If you still want your spaceship, go outside the spaceship to summon it. Galactus did not dare to neglect it. The opponent's strength and identity made him have to pay attention. When he came to the outside of the spaceship, Galactus used the summoning card again. The next second, a giant energy sushi that penetrated the galaxy and reached the stars appeared in front of Galactus. It's worthy of the name Tangshan. In a small frontier town of the Kree Empire, Janitor was eating with an unhappy and depressed look on his face. Damn dad, I'm so angry. Janitor ate a super large Big Mac in one gulp. Boss, another one. Okay, dear Janitor. The weird boss wearing a red hood said, it's rare to see a girl with a good appetite like you nowadays. I'm just a little hungry. Janitor's face turned redder when she heard this. Compared with Galactus and his workers, the group of big iron blocks in the Celestial group, Janitor is closer to the Council of Elders of the universe. That is, her humanity accounts for more than her divinity. So she will blush when others say that she has a good appetite, although she can't get fat, no matter how much she eats. Okay, here comes Deadpool's secret Big Mac burger. The boss brought Janitor an oversized Big Mac burger mixed with various ingredients. Janitor held the burger, which was 3 times bigger than her head, in both hands and bit off most of it. Eat slowly, I'll go make you some fried chicken. The boss smiled and went to the kitchen, leaving Janitor alone at the front desk eating sullenly. Little girl, what are you eating? You look very happy. A voice sounded, and 2 old men appeared behind Janitor. Ah, Grandpa, you are from the Council of Elders of the Universe. Janitor instantly identified the other party's identity, based on the cosmic energy information left in her body by Galactus. Elders of the Universe, Grandmaster, Geo Shianzan, Collector. Hello, honorable daughter of the Devourer of Planets. Geo Shianzan saluted Janitor hypocritically, and then said, we brothers came here this time, to invite you to watch the game in my arena. The arrival of the daughter of the Devourer of Planets will surely make my arena shine, and my gladiators can't wait. I'm not going. Janitor looked alert. Not to mention that her father had told her, the older brothers and uncles in the cinema also told her, that she must never go home with strangers. Although we are inviting you, we didn't say that you must agree. Janitor wanted to leave here, but found that the surrounding space had been sealed. She looked at the Collector and Geo Shianzan and said, let's go out first. Of course, dear Janitor. Geo Shianzan and the Collector looked like they were smug, and Janitor was worried that the hamburger shop owner and the residents of the town would be injured, so she didn't dare to fight with the 2 old men in front of her. When Janitor walked out of the hamburger shop and saw several figures in the sky, she thought it was not good. Grower, Runner, Universe Champion and you, Living Planet Ego. The 4 in the sky, plus the 2 on the ground, a total of only 13 members of the Universe Elders Council. Nearly half of the members came. Janitor was not afraid of them. If it really didn't work, she could hide back in the screening room. This was also what the screening room told Janitor, but Janitor was afraid that after she ran away, these guys would vent their anger on the residents of the town. This group of cosmic elders, especially the Living Planet Ego, have a very bad reputation in the universe. The Living Planet Ego is even known as the Asteroid Devourer. If she escapes to this asteroid and suffers for it, she will never forgive herself. But she can't beat them. With so many cosmic elders, her father could only escape unscathed. Surrounded by so many cosmic elders, Janitor felt the meaning of the word crisis for the first time. Janitor, don't be afraid. Uncle Hickory said that, as long as you believe in miracles, miracles will definitely appear. At this moment, a silver figure rushed in. Try to recover 10,000 words today. Chapter 609, Girls Battle. The silver figure rushed to Janitor's side at lightning speed, picked up Janitor, and rushed into the wormhole. Silver Shadow, why are you here? Your father, Galactus the Devourer of Planets, asked me to follow you and protect your safety. Silver Shadow directly crossed the space, shuttled through the wormhole, and crossed thousands of starfields in an instant to try to shake off the opponent. This move, let alone ordinary people, even some heavenly fathers and even other gods of the universe, could not catch up. But there was a cosmic elder among the cosmic elders who used speed, or more precisely, running as his anchor. Runner. They were all the last descendants of their respective races, and they were also survivors of the last era. At the beginning of the Big Bang, when they obtained endless cosmic energy, compared to other cosmic elders who evenly distributed the cosmic energy and then strengthened their bodies, he added all the cosmic energy to speed. In simple terms, it means that all of his attribute points are all points on speed and speed related attributes. Although the runner's other attributes are far superior to those of mortals under the nourishment of cosmic energy, and even some weak heavenly fathers are not runner's opponents, compared with other cosmic elders, runner is not good enough. However, this did not make runner underestimated by other cosmic elders. Qualitative change can lead to quantitative change. The corresponding interest of runner is running. He has a deep obsession with racing with others. He runs almost all the time, and it is common for him to run from one end of the universe to the other. Silver Surfer is a messenger of Galactus with relatively balanced attributes, and he is the best at controlling cosmic energy. Silver Surfer's speed attainment is close to the peak of the speed of this universe, but he seems vulnerable in front of Runner. Hey, little girl, where do you want to go? Runner even ran backwards, and easily caught up with Silver Surfer, who was firing at full power and almost risking his life. Damn it. You still have it. Runner casually shot out a cosmic energy to shoot down Silver Surfer, who was still running away, but was blocked by Janitor. Silver Surfer, run away by yourself, and go find my dad. You'll be fine with him around. Don't be silly. Silver Surfer looked at the universe elders rushing over, and said to Janitor, I'll create an opportunity for you, an opportunity to escape. Run away quickly. The information was transmitted, and the silver skateboard under Silver Surfer's feet differentiated into silver liquid, and attached to Janitor. The silver skateboard took Janitor to the endless universe. Silver Surfer stayed in place, and faced 6 universe elders. Do you want to know why I tried so hard to protect Janitor? Silver Surfer's words made the people who wanted to chase him curious. The runner had already caught up, and Janitor couldn't run away at all. For them who wanted to die, because they had lived too long, and were too bored, they couldn't die, even if they wanted to die, so they were killing themselves in the whole universe. It was obviously more important to have fun. Silver Surfer's words obviously aroused their curiosity. I originally became Galactus's messenger, not because of my original intention, but to save my planet, so I only fear Galactus, but not respect him. But Janitor is different. She is a very kind and pure girl, just like the endless aurora on the Zarathis field. She is different from you old bastards. She is not lost in her innate powerful power. After contacting ordinary life, she learned to revere and love this world. She is worth it. A terrifying cosmic energy instantly erupted from the body of the Silver Surfer. Even the elders of the universe had to be extremely careful when facing the desperate attack of the Silver Surfer, but they soon discovered that this energy was not attacking themselves, but blocking them. He blocked the surrounding space, forcing himself to spend more time to lift the blockade here. Although it was only a matter of seconds for them, a few seconds could do too much in a god-level battle. In the universe, energy beams filled with destructive power bombarded the girl in silver-purple armor. The power was so strong that it even tore the space apart. Another giant girl in silver-purple armor narrowly avoided the attack at an incredible speed. The runner kept releasing cosmic energy beams around Janitor to interfere with Janitor. Why didn't he go up to fight in close combat? Because he was hammered. Janitor proved with facts that, although she was just a little girl, she was also a serious cosmic god, and the cosmic elders, especially the runner who put all his attribute points in speed. Although Janitor couldn't keep up with the speed, she was fully able to fight back, which was commonly known as exchanging injuries for injuries. But at this moment, huge green vines grew out of the void and entangled Janitor. Janitor could easily see the cosmic energy carried by the huge roots and leaves. This is the cosmic elder, the planter. Planters, also known as gardeners, have hobbies such as planting flowers, grass, and trees, and doing some gardening. Originally, his personality was considered dovish among a group of cosmic elders, but the planet devourer once chewed one of his flower-growing planets as a dessert after dinner. The planter was not a cosmic elder with excellent combat power, not to mention that even a hungry planet can beat a cosmic elder in a one-on-one mode. The planet devourer who had just eaten did not hesitate to beat the planter who went up to argue. Then the two became enemies. As the saying goes, the son pays for the father's debt. Thor next door basically beat up the enemies that his father provoked when he was young in the universe. It was similar for Janitor. The cosmic energy on Janitor's body shook, and the huge rhizome was instantly broken, but then countless branches and leaves formed a 10,000-foot tree man and slapped Janitor. But Janitor, who had been baptized by the tactics of the people in the screening room, was not a little girl who knew nothing. Janitor, who perfectly understood the principle of shooting the horse first and capturing the king first, directly shuttled through space and pounced on the planter. Seeing Janitor approaching, the planter panicked instantly. At this moment, Janitor looked too much like the devourer who had beaten him up. In addition, he was not famous for his fighting ability. He positioned himself as a gardener who planted flowers and grass. Janitor was about to punch the planter in the face, but at this moment, a fist with greater force hit Janitor's back of the head. Janitor, who sensed the fist, suppressed the urge to turn his head and looked over. He hugged his head tightly and quickly dropped his body to avoid the blow. Power Type Cosmic Elders, Cosmic Champions. Chapter 610. The more we fight, the braver Janitor. If the runner is the person with the highest speed in the entire universe, then the champion of the universe holding the power stone is the most powerful person. Of course, the reason why this guy came to trouble Janitor was largely because he also had a grudge against Galactus. He used to hold the power stone and claimed to be invincible. Then he went around the world to challenge various masters. When he heard that the home of the planter, who was also an elder of the universe, was eaten as a dessert by Galactus, the devourer of planets, he was so happy that he ran to duel with Galactus. As we all know, Uncle Tun's fighting power is directly related to his hunger value. Coincidentally, Uncle Tun was not very hungry at that time. It doesn't take much effort to beat a planter. Then he was pressed by Galactus on a white dwarf and rubbed, and even the white dwarf was half worn flat. After this battle, the champion of the universe successfully became famous in the god-level circle of the entire universe, but it is hard to say what the name is. Janitor barely dodged the punch of the champion of the universe, and the planter was so scared that he broke into a cold sweat. "You bastard, do you want to kill me too?" The champion of the universe retracted his fist and said, "What are you afraid of? The Grandmaster will be resurrected. If he is really killed, won't it be better to let the Grandmaster resurrect you?" The planter looked MP, and Janitor was in crisis again. Huge energy tentacles wrapped around Janitor, and this time Janitor finally faced a strong enemy. I don't know how this group of guys from the Council of the Universe did it, but they actually took Ego, a living planet, to run around the universe. At this moment, Janitor is facing a real living planet. Huge energy tentacles kept attacking Janitor. Although Janitor fought back desperately, Ego was obviously much stronger than the two guys with ridiculous skills. Although speed is a flaw, after all, you can't ask Ego, a planet, to run as fast as a runner, right? Although he is alive, he is a planet after all. But apart from the weakness of his moving speed, Ego is almost an omnipotent king. As a planet, Ego, whose main body is a godlike brain, can be said to have endless energy. In terms of energy storage, he is stronger than any cosmic elder in the Council of the Elders of the Universe. And since it is a planet, Ego's main body's defense is naturally stronger than other cosmic elders who are evolved from mortals. Not to mention the protective shield that is completely made of cosmic energy. Every inch of soil and every plant on that planet is full of Ego's energy. These things are his armor, and his main body only has the brain located at the core of the star. At the beginning of its birth, this planet plundered and devoured everything around it, and absorbed everything around it to itself through gravity to have today. After the birth of the divine mind, greed has become the instinct of this planet. It will frantically devour all the energy that can be devoured. All of this has created the characteristics of being able to easily devour, digest, and store cosmic energy. The cosmic energy rays emitted by Janitor have no effect on Ego's tentacles. It can't be said that it is completely useless, but to put it more intuitively, her attack not only restores the opponent's mana, but the damage she dealt is not as much as Ego's. The daughter of the devourer of planets was actually swallowed by a planet. This is really interesting. Seeing this, Geo Shianzan, who was standing by, mercilessly opened the Great Taunting technique. At the same time, cosmic energy flashed around him, and his blue skin looked even more weird under the reflection of cosmic energy. Several energy balls appeared around him, and then hit Janitor. Seeing this, Janitor distanced herself from Ego's tentacles, and raised her hand to release energy bombs, to cancel out the energy bombs released by Geo Shianzan. It can't be said to cancel out, but to detonate. Janitor also expected that this would be a big battle, so she could only try to run to the uninhabited area she knew. Girl of the Devourer family, look here. The huge fist of the cosmic champion slammed into Janitor. The terrifying force was enough to smash an asteroid into dust in the universe without any restraint. This terrifying force can even destroy space in a purely physical form. Janitor had no time to think and could only push back with her palm instinctively. However, her fighting skills were inherited from her father. If we talk about the use of cosmic energy, Galactus is definitely the strongest in the entire universe. However, if you look at a group of cosmic gods fighting in close combat, the physical technique they use is to throw planets at other people's faces. You should know that in terms of physical skills alone, let alone Captain America, they may not even be as good as Jarvis. When their fists collided, Janitor felt that the cosmic energy in her body was disordered. This girl is dying. Come on together. Janitor glanced at them with a strange look in her eyes. In the next nanosecond, Janitor once again fought with them vigorously. With lightning speed, she dodged the two heavy punches of the universe champion, and then clenched her left fist. A stream of cosmic energy was transformed into positive and negative energy respectively. The positive and negative energy annihilated and exploded. Janitor used this punch and the terrifying energy torrent it carried directly to the universe champion and blew him away. This punch made even the universe champion scream and fly away. But the next moment, the runner's fist landed on Janitor's side face. The runner calculated very well. Janitor must be uncomfortable with such a terrible punch, so he took the opportunity to attack. But the runner's idea was good, but there was a little gap between the plan and the guess. The runner did hit Janitor with one punch, but Janitor immediately held the runner's arm tightly, even if the plants released by the planter entangled his body. Then, in the runner's horrified eyes, a wheel of energy rotating at the speed of light appeared on Janitor's other hand. Janitor's eyes showed a trace of hesitation, but the next second, his hand was raised, and his arm fell. The runner's arm was sawed off by Janitor. Ah! The runner screamed and fled the battlefield, not even caring about his arm. He never thought that a young boy would be so heavy-handed. The other universe elders were also panicking. Not to mention that Janitor's status would be instantly replenished as soon as it was bad. What was this weird light wheel? Exclamation mark. They had been fighting Galactus for so long, and he had never used it. Damn, another idiot came to threaten me that my book would be a failure sooner or later. Did I set my fan value too low? Chapter 611, Raging Devourer, you can always trust the River God. Janitor's figure instantly appeared in the screening room. Everyone who had been prepared for a long time hurriedly helped Janitor to sit down. Peter directly moved the snack cabinet next to him, and the table was full of snacks. Janitor didn't care about being polite and ate snacks in big mouthfuls. Ace was even more focused on releasing healing rays to repair the place where Janitor was injured by the old silver coin of Geoshianzen. After eating a lot of food and replenishing the energy of the universe, Janitor finally breathed a sigh of relief and then said to Ace beside him, "Uncle Ace, the 8-point light wheel you taught me is really useful. I only used it once and beat that guy away. You should call me Brother Ace." The healing rays in Ace's hand continued to heal Janitor. When Janitor's injuries were healed, Ace changed the energy output mode to replenish Janitor's energy. "Yes. You go back to replenish your energy. Leave this to me, Ace." Hickory appeared in the screening room. Ace nodded and returned to the Kingdom of Light to replenish his energy. Fortunately, when Janitor was in the screening room, time in your universe did not flow. Yeah, but in that case, if we happen to encounter a strong enemy in the future, maybe we can use this method to defend against the enemy. I'm afraid that group of guys who claim to be the elders of the universe have been confused. Why is Janitor so strong? If you ask me, those guys are not that powerful. They are speedsters, but they screamed and ran away after Janitor sawed off one of their arms. Don't be careless. Thanos sat aside and said, "The strongest point of the Elder Council of the Universe is that they have the ability to be immortal. The Collector once made a bet with death, but lost the bet, so he can never set foot in the land of death for the rest of his life. That is to say, he will never die, and the Supreme Lord has an extremely buggy ability. He can resurrect creatures that died within 30 hours in full state. As long as the Supreme Lord does not die, the Elder Council of the universe will not perish. You can gain the ability to be immortal if you lose the bet. So good. Peter's eyes lit up, as if he thought of something. Thanos saw this, and quickly warned Peter, this is not a good thing. You are immortal, but you are not immortal. Imagine that you are so old that you can only lie in bed and cannot move, and you can't even breathe, but you still can't die. You can only continue to endure the pain of suffocation. You can't digest food, and your body gradually ages under the ravages of time, and even decays and disintegrates. And all of this, you have to do it while you are alive. Imagine how terrible it is. Peter heard this, and instantly gave up this idea. It is too selfish to let them fall into eternal pain, just because he doesn't want to lose them. When his body condition was replenished and perfected, Janitor once again returned to his world, and prepared to continue his battle. Thanos said to Janitor, if possible, protect yourself and hold on for a while longer, and see if you can find out more of your opponent's trump cards. Seeing this, the others also hurriedly prepared and continued to replenish the materials that Janitor needed. The reason why they didn't leave was because they knew that Bruce and Clark would most likely negotiate with General Zod when they returned. Although they basically couldn't help at all, most of them chose to stay here out of concern for their friends, just in case they needed help. Unexpectedly, Bruce didn't wait, but waited for Janitor to come back crying. When they heard that Janitor was being hunted down, and her retainers who protected her sacrificed for her, everyone was furious. Thanos quickly came to a conclusion, after asking the people who were hunting down Janitor, and gave Janitor enough information. And Ace even passed on a set of combat experience and combat skills to Janitor through light particle information transmission. Although the effect of this kind of set of moves transmitted in this enlightenment mode is not good, it is better than Janitor having no combat experience at all, not to mention that the opponent is obviously a little bit worse. This was also proved in the information that Janitor sent back later. Among the 6 universe elders, only the universe champion is slightly better in combat skills. For the other 5, the runner crushed with speed, the planter was a pure chicken, Geo Shianzan was a mage plus an assistant, and the collector was slacking off throughout the whole process. The biggest threat was Ego. This threat level is limited to Janitor before she received the guidance of the Giant of Light. Janitor once again returned to the battlefield in full state. She raised her hand and several sharp blade rays condensed very tightly, easily cutting off the tentacles released by Ego. Although Ego had as many tentacles as he wanted, and they were worth less than his hair, the tentacles he released before could cause great trouble to this girl. How come he got it now? If you don't do it again, this girl will really run away. Geo Shianzan roared when he saw this. The collector didn't slack off when he heard it. A red light flashed on his hand, and Janitor only felt that the cosmic energy in his body disappeared for a very short moment. He used the reality gem to modify Janitor's reality, modifying Janitor to have no cosmic energy. Although the effect of the modification was only for a moment, it was enough for the cosmic elders who had been prepared for a long time. The cosmic champion who took the lead punched out with all his strength. The fist that could originally blow up a planet with one punch doubled its power again with the blessing of the power gem, and more than doubled. The planter is not very good. Even if he has a divine object like the time stone, he can only use it to control the time of mortals and manipulate the growth of plants in a small range. But now, the cosmic energy in Janitor's body disappeared at that moment, which gave the planter the opportunity to use the time stone. The effect of the time stone used by the planter is to prolong the effect of the reality stone. Janitor didn't expect that the opponent would have such a move. He was accidentally injured for a moment, and then was tied up tightly by a ghost tentacles. Janitor, who wanted to leave the battlefield and return to the screening room to replenish her status, stayed. She wanted to see what trump cards the opponent had not yet taken out. The remaining 5 cosmic elders were relieved when they saw this. This girl was much more capable than they expected. According to the agreement, you must give her to me first. I want to use her to reproduce an offspring. Ego's original planet made a deafening sound. He had already combined with many mortals, but none of the offspring he gave birth to inherited his power, so Ego set his sights on Janitor, who was also at the god level and weak enough. Maybe it was possible The collector frowned and was about to say something, but his face suddenly changed. The big hand wearing purple armor suddenly slapped Ego's body. Ego didn't even have time to escape before he was turned into cosmic dust by this purple big hand. The various cosmic energy protections before were useless at this moment. Ego was like an egg that was smashed to pieces by a hammer. You, damn it. The owner of the purple giant hand appeared in the universe. He directly broke through the space and came to this battlefield. A terrifying cosmic energy that everyone present had never seen in their lives passed by, and Janitor was absorbed by Galactus into his armor. They had fought against Galactus more than once, but this was the first time they had seen such a terrifying Galactus. Wait a minute, Galactus didn't give them a chance to explain. If he originally wanted to see what changes had happened to his daughter, when he heard that the bastard Ego wanted to use his daughter to give birth to an heir, Galactus really went berserk. The giant hand carrying the terrifying cosmic energy slapped down fiercely, and the planter and the cosmic champion were instantly wiped out. The two infinite gems were trapped in the space crack under the torrent of cosmic energy and disappeared. The collector was also blown up by the slap, and the reality gem disappeared on the spot. Now, there is only one left. Galactus knew that everything he and his daughter had experienced was caused by this guy. Thinking of this, Galactus was even more furious. A cosmic energy ray shot out from his eyes and completely wiped out Geo Shianzan's body particle by particle on the spot, making him completely disappear from this universe. This time, there will be no resurrection. You passed, Galactus. A voice so calm that it chilled the heart sounded, and a skeleton in a grey robe appeared in front of Galactus. Maybe. Galactus looked at the skeleton in front of him and said, but I don't care about death. As a god, you shouldn't have mortal emotions. Another huge figure appeared. His appearance was blurred, and only endless cosmic stars seemed to be hidden in it. I know. But you made this mistake. The magnificent figure said, you showed mortal emotions to your offspring. I know. Death looked at Galactus quietly, and after a long time, he only left a sentence, don't do it again. Death left, and the magnificent figure did not stay for long. Only the purple giant that reached the sky and the earth was left at the scene. Dad, Silver Shadow. Janitor's eyes were full of admiration. This was a daughter's admiration for her father. She wanted to go back to the theater and tell her friends that her dad was so powerful. Galactus stretched out his hand and extracted the remains of Silver Surfer from the cosmic dust, but that was all. Galactus wanted to tell Janitor that this was what gods needed to learn, but Janitor jumped off his hand, wrapped the remains of Silver Surfer with cosmic energy, and threw it towards the distant Milky Way. Galactus. Janitor looked at the galaxy nervously, and the next second, a silver bullhead with squinting eyes emerged from the galaxy. Young Janitor, did you drop the intact Silver Surfer, the intact gold version of Silver Surfer, or the intact silver version of Silver Surfer? Galactus, didn't I just promise Death not to cause trouble? In the kingdom of Death, Death fell into deep thought as he looked at the Silver Surfer who had just arrived at the kingdom of Death, and was dragged back before his feet even touched the ground. In the comics of the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos got the Infinity Stones from a group of cosmic elders. The champion of the universe has the Power Stone, the planter has the Time Stone, the runner has the Space Stone, and the Reality Stone is in the hands of the collector. Chapter 612. Earth Negotiation Team. Clark, Bruce, and Diana sat quietly in a row with special helmets on their faces. The three of them were on the Kryptonian spaceship. Clark's eyes showed a nervous look, and Bruce was thinking about his plan in his mind. Although we have the Phantom Engine, the electronic virus, and Jor-El as a backup, it is still not enough. Time is still too tight. If possible. Bruce's mind was full of his plan. After learning that Zod and his Kryptonians were coming, he had already made a plan against Zod, and a backup plan for that plan that failed, and a backup plan for the backup plan, and a backup plan for the backup plan. Clark's mood at this moment was closer to being afraid of being home, especially when he learned that he had killed the last of his people in that future. This feeling became more and more inflated. Diana was the one with the best mentality among the three. Bruce modified the information network and changed all the information about Clark originally released by Louis to her. In other words, she replaced Louis' original identity and boarded the Kryptonian spaceship instead of Louis. Anyway, she is also a reporter in hiding, and she works in a museum. She is more in line with Louis' personality than Louis. Bruce is her boss, and he is also the one who knows all this, and has met Jor-El, Bruce's butler. Alfu left early under Bruce's arrangement. The three did not want Alfu to take risks. At the same time, what Diana and Clark did not know was that Alfu was assigned other tasks by Bruce. Compared with the two men who were worried, Diana's task was much simpler. She was just a thug. She only needed to be a background board in negotiations. When the negotiations broke down, it was her time to appear. For this reason, she also took back all her equipment. After all, on the Krypton spaceship, she was the strongest one in terms of normal combat power. "We are here," Fyra said to the three. Clark took a deep breath of the earth air in the mask and took the lead to walk into the spaceship command room. "Welcome, Kal-El." The leader took off the hood, and the person inside was Zod. "You don't know how long we have been looking for you." "Actually, I know." Clark looked at General Zod with mixed feelings. From the perspective of Krypton and bystanders, Zod is not a bad guy, but he has to look at Zod from the perspective of being hostile to Zod, from the perspective of Earthlings. "I know you. My father told me everything." At this time, Bruce, Jor-El and Clark were testifying together. "Don't worry about it, just push all the unreasonable things onto Jor-El. Dead people are more useful than living people." "Al, do you want to see him?" Clark asked back. Zod refused Clark after a brief hesitation. "Forget it, I don't want to listen to a dead old friend nagging at me." He hesitated. Bruce instantly noticed the abnormality of General Zod and told Clark this information. And the way to tell Clark was that the BO force field vibrated. This was the inspiration Bruce got from a skill card drawn by the Lord before. At present, only the two of them can use it. In theory, only the two of them can use it. As we all know, Clark has a BO force field. And the BO force field is an extremely unreasonable thing. After returning to the Batcave, Bruce quickly entered the Mind Palace and began to make plans. In addition to how to kill all the opponents and see if he can take his two teammates away together after the negotiation failed, the second thing Bruce did was to establish a complete information exchange system. Although he often does not do his job as the heir of the Wayne Group and a super genius, Bruce has learned a lot of negotiation skills. On Earth, 80% of the time during the negotiation process is nonsense, and you certainly can't expect those big men with high salaries and big stomachs to support the entire negotiation process by themselves, and lawyers and negotiation teams are not always available, so a complete behind-the-scenes staff team is very important. Bruce never needs that kind of thing, because he alone is the strongest staff team on Earth. If there is a stronger one, it must be him and Alfred. So Bruce chose to be Clark's staff team during the negotiation without hesitation. But Krypton should not have such a process, and the situation is stronger than the person. Bruce doesn't think General Zod will allow himself, an Earthling, to participate in the negotiations on Krypton. His and Diana's identities are more like hostages. But it was definitely impossible to expect Clark to learn all the negotiation skills, the dregs of human civilization, in one night, so they simply invented a simpler method. BO force field vibration negotiation. Simply put, Bruce sent a slight vibration through his throat, and Clark extended the BO force field to Bruce, deciphering the information given by Bruce through the throat vibration sent by Bruce, so that Bruce could direct Clark to complete the negotiation this time. It turned out that this trick was much simpler than letting Clark learn the dregs of human civilization for thousands of years overnight and become a negotiation master. Originally, they wanted Diana to learn this trick together so that they could open a barrier-free chat room under the noses of the other party on the Kryptonian spaceship and make the other party completely unnoticeable. But this trick was a bit difficult for Diana. After learning from Bruce and Clark for a night, she learned a few basic words besides watching the two men exchange eyes. You, me, him, she, it, do it, run away, fight. Diana even suspected that they didn't need a BO force field and could recite a book of divine comedy just by looking at each other. So what? What should I do? Clark quickly sent back the message, and a slight vibration made Bruce get a sentence. He rejected you, but hesitated before rejecting you. Based on the information we saw before, I can conclude that Zod is definitely thinking of the old relationship with your biological father. Now go and get close to him, and let him continue to like you more, so that it will be easier for us to gain an advantageous position in the next negotiation. Okay. Should I call you uncle? Clark suddenly asked. Zod was stunned by Clark's question, and then he actually agreed. Great. Bruce heard this, and was even more certain that he had a greater advantage in this negotiation. Now, chat with him, and ask him about Krypton. Apostrophe. Chapter 613, Styx Blood Oath. Zod cleared his throat. He hadn't spoken so much for a long time. He gave orders to his subordinates more often, and discussed the future of Krypton with his old friend Jor-El more often. Only when facing Clark could he talk to Clark about the glory of Krypton in the past, just like an elder to a younger generation. After an unknown amount of time, Zod asked, Clark, Al told you about the secret book, right? Yes. Clark said, I know where it is. Zod's face lit up, and he was about to say something, when he was interrupted by Clark. I can also give it to you, but you have to see something first. See something? What to see? Zod was in a good mood at the moment, and he even joked with Clark, your great achievements on this planet. Bruce walked up at this moment, and an iron rod similar to the master key appeared in his hand. Zod picked up the iron rod and asked, is this your masterpiece? No. Clark shook his head, pointed at Bruce and said, it's his. Zod narrowed his eyes, as if he didn't believe that a mere earthling could actually create Kryptonian technology. But he was in a good mood now because of Clark, his junior, and he didn't care about this little thing. He inserted the information stick into the control panel and quickly found the information inside. A video. Bruce nodded with satisfaction. There was more than one video in it. With the help of Jor-El, he added a little bit of information to it. The video started, and it turned out to be a scene of the destruction of Krypton. Seeing this scene, Zod's face was particularly ugly. But then, he saw a spaceship suddenly appear in the corner of the video, and then a flash of light flashed, and the spaceship took away a city on Krypton, and all the Kryptonians in it. What does this mean, Clark? Zod's mood was not good. Seeing his home planet destroyed again with his own eyes, even if it was just a video, Zod was in a very bad mood. Look at that spaceship. Clark translated Bruce's words word by word through the vibration of the biological force field, and then said to Zod, isn't the appearance of that spaceship a bit too unreasonable? General Zod was stunned, and then stared at the spaceship. That's Brainiac. Who? Bruce's eyes lit up. As expected, Zod, as a general of Krypton, knew much more than he and Clark knew. A level 12 life form, Brainiac. Zod said with a gloomy face. He is called a collector of civilizations. The most common thing he does is to collect civilizations in the universe, and each time he chooses a city on the planet as his collection. We on Krypton also encountered Brainiac's collection planet during the period of outward exploration. I didn't expect that bastard to target our Krypton as well. Zod took a deep breath to calm himself, and then said to Clark, although I don't know where you got this video from, I already know about it. When we revive Krypton, we will take revenge on Brainiac. Uncle Zod, I've been wondering, do we have to use the secret code to revive Krypton? What else can we use if we don't use the secret code? General Zod asked back, use that inefficient method of reproduction? But have you ever thought that the secret code is actually the culprit that caused our genocide? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. But the secret code has locked the blood of us Kryptonians and has put the entire society into a path where it cannot develop and can only continuously absorb the Earth's core and finally be destroyed. So I will adjust the secret code so that newborns will no longer be shackled by that kind of thinking. Then what? Continue to invade other planets? Clark. Zod said to Clark earnestly, you have to understand that this is all for the development of our planet. Seeing that Clark was about to argue with him, Bruce quickly vibrated his throat to send a signal, indicating that Clark should speak according to his words. Then what? When the core energy of a planet is completely absorbed, then go find the next planet. What if all the planets are absorbed? Zod's face froze, and then he said, Clark, you are a little worried. I'm just stating the facts. Clark said, Krypton's development has taken a completely wrong approach before, strengthening itself by plundering others. When there is no object to plunder, that is the time for the destruction of this civilization and this country. Zod heard the implication of Clark's words, so he was speechless. I can hand over the secret book. I also have a creation chamber here, which can directly breed a batch of newborns. Hearing the word breeding chamber, Zod's eyes lit up. He is not a scientist, and does not have the ability to build a creation chamber. Originally, he just hoped to find the secret book, continue to sail in the universe, and then try his luck to find a spaceship with a creation chamber. But they found nothing. When Zod heard that Clark had a creation chamber, he could not hide his excitement. The secret book plus the creation chamber, plus the world engine, these are some of the requirements for rebuilding Krypton. But all the permissions of the creation chamber are in my hands, including the self-destruction permission. If the creation chamber is activated without my permission, the creation chamber will directly activate the self-destruction program. Zod knew that the creation chamber did have a self-destruction program. This is the foundation of Kryptonians. If it falls into the hands of the enemy and the enemy deciphers the information of the creation chamber, it will be a devastating blow to the entire Krypton. Every creation chamber used to have a self-destruction program installed, although that thing has basically never been activated. Zod knows it. Zod heard the threat from Clark and asked, what do you want? To be the king of New Krypton, Clark. No, I don't mean to be king. Clark said to Zod, in the 29 years I have been on Earth, I have always been an ordinary person. I will be, and if nothing unexpected happens, I will be in the future. An ordinary person? Zod's face looked a little strange, as if he was mocking Clark. I want you to sign a contract with me, a contract about this matter. Bruce took out an ancient scroll from his suitcase, and Clark took the scroll and handed it to General Zod. What is this? General Zod was puzzled. The Styx Blood Oath scroll. Bruce explained. Drop your blood on the scroll, and you will swear to the Styx, and those who violate the Styx Blood Oath will be dragged into the Styx, and will never be reincarnated. Bruce said it very seriously, but Zod's mouth twitched, and he almost laughed out loud. I have to make up my homework today, so that's it. I'm about to graduate, and I really don't want to graduate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614. Why did the Styx ferryman come out of the river? Ha 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 ha. The Kryptonians burst into laughter. They had long been superstitious for who knows how many years. In their ancient culture, there was also a saying similar to the Styx, so they laughed and mocked Bruce Wayne, who took out the Styx Blood Oath. Bruce also laughed, and this was the effect he wanted. Strategically, we should despise the enemy, and tactically, we should take the enemy seriously. Strategically, we should despise the enemy, because we must establish the determination to win, and tactically, we should take the enemy seriously. We should be cautious and make prudent decisions in specific combat deployments. We must never underestimate our opponents, just because our enemies are weaker than us. There are even too many miraculous battles on Earth. At that time, no one was optimistic about the ancient Eastern country. What was the result? A 5-star general who did not want to be named said that he would end the battlefield before Christmas. Although the war did end before Christmas, the victorious party was not America. And Bruce relied on Zod's carelessness and contempt for the Earthlings. He wanted to let these Kryptonians know that the Earthlings should not be humiliated. If you underestimate the Earth, you will suffer a great loss. He asked Jor-El, Krypton does not believe in gods and magic. Such things are feudal superstition on Krypton. And the screening room gave Clark such a gift. Styx Blood Oath scroll, level, mythology, category, props, introduction. In a super large multiverse, there is a river that runs through the entire multiverse. It is unknown where it comes from and where it ends. It is the destination of all things after death. Swearing by the Styx, the oath made, cannot be violated even by a powerful person at the level of a single universe. If you want to swear on the Styx, you must be able to see the Styx. Ordinary people do not have that kind of power, but the Styx Blood Oath scroll can. Drop the blood of both parties who signed the contract and the blood of the guarantor on the Styx Blood Oath scroll, and you can summon the projection of the Styx and a Styx ferryman as the fair person for this oath. Bruce wanted to ask if there was still a level difference between the multiverses, but this was a gift for Clark, and the screening room ignored Bruce. But Bruce was sure that he could use this to trap Zod to death. But considering Clark was still there, and if he wrote too much, the other party might really get suspicious, Bruce didn't dare to act rashly, so he could only add a little bit of private goods on the basis of the original unequal treaty. For example, Krypton could not attack the Earth under any circumstances, and could not harm any Earthlings. For example, when the Earth was attacked, Krypton could come to help, but the Earth did not need to have any obligations. Bruce didn't think that this treaty was too much from the perspective of Earthlings. The first law of the universe, survival is the highest principle. He wants to let the Earthlings survive. As for the feelings of the Kryptonians, it is not within Bruce Wayne's consideration. He is the Batman of the Earth, not the Batman of the universe. General Zod took the Styx Blood Oath and looked at it for a few times. The Styx Blood Oath has a very magical power. That is, although the text on it is different from any text in this world, it can be understood by any intelligent life. Looking at it, Zod felt that it was wrong. Although there was no problem with the conditions given by the other party, Clark used the secret book to create 1,000 Kryptonian newborns, and they were all healthy warriors, with a ratio of 1-to-1 between men and women, that is, 500 each. At the same time, if the number of Kryptonians is less than 1,000 within 10 years, Clark will replenish the number until it reaches 1,000. Zod must leave the Earth, leave the Milky Way, and go to another galaxy to build a new Krypton. At the same time, Kryptonians cannot harm Earthlings at any time or in any way. If they violate this, the entire Krypton family will be dragged into the Styx and will never be reborn. At the same time, the creation chamber must remain on Earth as a hostage like Clark. But why can I understand the words on it? I will be the entire guarantor. Clark said, my father said that he hopes I can become a bridge between Krypton and Earth. I think this is the time for me to take action. Yes, as Clark is both a son of the Earth and a son of Krypton, it is most reasonable for him to be the guarantor. And General Zod, as the highest ranking Kryptonian among the existing Kryptonians, can represent the entire Kryptonian race. As for the representative of the Earthlings, you can only say that Batman is awesome. Why can I understand these words? Because this is the Styx Blood Oath. Zod realized that this thing might be true, but in his understanding, such a thing does not make sense to exist. General, you don't have time to hesitate. Bruce said to Zod, I have already made a backup plan. If we haven't sent a signal to the Earth by a certain time, the Genesis chamber will start the self-destruction program. Are you threatening me? Zod is not so good-tempered towards Bruce. Clark is his junior and his hope to rebuild Krypton, but Bruce is just an inferior life. Diana. The sword of Vulcan was unsheathed in an instant. Diana held the sword in her left hand and the shield in her right hand, blocking behind Bruce. Bruce pulled his hand and put on the bat mask on his face. Anti-Krypton armor 1.0 beta. This armor not only has a stronger energy power system, but it is also made of imitation water droplet material. The defense can be said to be the pinnacle of all things on Earth. Clark, are you going to go against me for these Earthlings? Zod. Clark translated Bruce's words through the vibration of the force field. I'm a son of Earth and a son of Krypton. I don't want the two sides to go to war. Moreover, I hope you don't underestimate the power of Earthlings. Them, a group of inferior life forms. Go. Hearing this, Diana pointed her sword at Fire and reported her name and origin. Diana Prince, daughter of Hippolyta, Amazon tribe of Paradise Island. Fire L, Deputy General under General Zod. Fire could see that this woman's strength was not weaker than hers, so she also reported her name. The next moment, the sword of Vulcan and the blade of Krypton collided with each other. After a brief fight, Fire found that the opponent's strength was even stronger than hers, and the weapon was obviously better. The Krypton blade was directly cut out of a gap in the previous collision. General Zod, I hope you can think about it carefully. Is it because of a momentary grudge that time keeps passing? and finally leads to the ending that none of us want to see? Or is it to summon the sticks together? Stop, firer. General Zod's face was gloomy. He was firmly grasped by the Earthling wearing strange armor with 2 ears on the armor. He didn't dare to gamble at all. The importance of the Genesis chamber to him was second only to Clark. And Clark didn't seem to agree with him. General Zod, who was originally happy, now felt as uncomfortable as if he had been reversed by a GD. You beat the Earthling. General Zod held the Styx Blood Oath scroll in his hand and asked, what do you want me to do? Drop a drop of blood here. Bruce came over first and dripped a drop of blood on the Styx Blood Oath scroll. General Zod also dripped a drop of blood here with a dark face. Finally, it was Clark. After completing all this, the Styx Blood Oath scroll burst into blood red and dead grey, and the 2 colors of light merged into one, and finally turned into a long winding river. Where are the others? Zod looked around, but found that there were only 3 of them here. Because only we dripped blood, only 3 of us came here. Bruce looked at the surrounding environment, especially the river in front of him. The river was calm, so calm that people wanted to dive in and sleep quietly in this river. Is this the Styx? How will the contract proceed next? Don't panic, the Styx ferryman will come next. But at this moment, bubbles began to emerge from the long river in front of them, as if something was about to come out of it. Everyone also knows about the 515 event. I will save more manuscripts in the next 2 days, and then there will be a chance to win a prize for every 5,000 words. I saw that in addition to cash red envelopes, there are also keyboards, thermos cups and speakers. 5 chances for 25,000 words, and I will directly update 25,000 that day, so it will be 4,000 in the next few days. One more thing, the text is more than 100 words. You don't need to spend more money. One more thing, I put those words in the text specifically. One more thing, don't even think about getting it for free. You can only win the lottery if you have 500 fans or more. One more thing, I like this setting. One more thing, I put it in on purpose, just to see the defense of the freeloaders. Chapter 615, New Screening, Godzilla. Then my dad suddenly appeared and defeated them one by one with a slap. In the screening room, Janitor was happily telling everyone about the previous battle. I never knew my dad was so powerful. He was always in the spaceship, never talking, either on his way to eat a planet, or waiting for an edible planet to appear, and then eat the planet. I'm back. The river god teleported back to the screening room, and sat down on the sofa. Oh, I'm so tired after 2 field trips. And Brother River God is so powerful, he can actually resurrect Silver Shadow. It's nothing, the main thing is that I have that ability after the previous field trip. Didn't Silver Shadow get besieged and smashed to pieces by a group of cosmic elders? I was just giving it a try. Janitor said, at that time, my dad extracted Silver Shadow's body from outer space, and I threw him into the Milky Way, and sure enough, Brother River God was summoned out. Hiss, Peter asked after a brief thought. Does that mean that, if anything happens to any one of us in the future, we can just jump into the river? No, said the River God, we have to be thrown in. I don't think it's that simple. Hikaru said, there are so many people who drop things into the river, why are we the only ones who can summon the river god? Besides the fact that we know the river god and know of his existence, it may also be related to the screening room. I think it's more because of the screening room than because of it. Strange, our existence and our understanding of the river god allowed the river god to gain an anchor point in our world, and then although the screening room asked us to return to our respective places, we could enter and exit each other during the process. In other words, the screening room opened up the passage between our worlds. So, only when the screening room enters its break and we know of the existence of the river god, can we summon the river god in our world, and I guess there is an additional condition, that is, the river god himself must be in his own world. But even so, we will get a great help. Hikari said, I have a lot of things. If possible, we can even use the rules of the river god to teleport items across the multiverse or even travel across the multiverse. Really? The Holy Lord's eyes lit up, and then the light in his eyes quickly went out. So what if it's true? There is no river in hell. Wait, if we kill Basher, and then kill Dicky, you stick his body to turn into the earth, and then put Basher's body on it to turn it into a river. The 5 remaining demons in the whole hell will agree that this water flow is a river. The 5 of them are all intelligent life forms in the whole hell. They think this is a river, so this water flow has the concept of a river. Since the river god is a conceptual god, the water flow they call a river also has the concept of a river. So can we summon the river god? Exclamation mark. At that time, we can lure that Gaibo gang to push the 5 of them into the river and let the river god take us to the river god's world. Although that world is very weird, it must be much better than hell. I don't think this is a good idea, Loki retorted, not to mention whether there will be dangers. I don't think the screening room will let us take advantage of such a big loophole. If we really do this, the screening room will definitely patch you up directly. Loki expressed a certain understanding of this through my long-term understanding of the screening room. I think if he is a human, he must be a fun person. We can have fun within the scope he allows, but don't even think about anything beyond the scope he allows. Even if it succeeds, what's the use? Thanos can use the time stone to resurrect Vision. Could it be that? What are you doing? A human girl. A scarlet magic power surged, and Wanda snatched the dessert she made from Loki's hands. You don't deserve to eat the cake I baked myself. I eat your cake to give you face. Asgard has countless pastry chefs who are countless times better than you. They are all proud to let me eat a bite of their pastries. Lulu. Who cares? If you don't agree, let's fight. I think the theater will definitely be happy to see me beat you up. Looking at the 2 people who were ready to fight, a group of people looked at each other, and the meaning was self-evident. The following content is mental communication. Who will go up to stop them? Hickory, you go. I don't think they can fight. Why? Didn't you see that they were just arguing the whole time, and they didn't even move their butts? Loki is 1,500 years old. How can he still quarrel with Wanda? The mental age of these 2 people combined is no more than 5 years old. A light lit up in the theater, and a figure appeared here again. You are back. How was the negotiation? It went smoothly. Diana said this with a hint of smile. According to the Styx blood oath, Clark and the Earth must provide 1,000 newborns for New Krypton. Of course, Clark cannot give birth to these 1,000 newborns alone, and he must use the creation chamber. However, if you want to use the creation chamber, you must use the secret book in Clark's body, but the secret book has turned into information genetic element and merged with Clark's DNA. If you want to activate the creation chamber, you must have Clark's DNA. Clark himself certainly has no objection to this, but his skin seems to have other ideas. Krypton's collection equipment can't cut Clark's skin at all, even in the Krypton environment. It's Clark who becomes weak, not Clark's body. Bruce is very disappointed about this. Fortunately, Clark himself is still pretty good. After a lot of effort, he finally opened a small cut on his finger and squeezed out the necessary blood. Thank God, this thing doesn't need to extract bone marrow. It takes time to activate the creation chamber, so Clark and Bruce stayed there, and Diana came to report the situation to everyone in the screening room. It would be best if it could be resolved peacefully. Hickory said, the other party is Clark's people. It is best to avoid fighting. Don't you have to stay there to protect Bruce? It's okay. General Zod has no reason to take action. Besides, there is also a rule in the Styx blood oath that Kryptonians cannot harm Earthlings in any form at any time. Break time ends, and the screening continues. This screening, Godzilla. Chapter 616, The Emperor's Wrath. Do we have a new member in the screening room? Is that new member called Godzilla? Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan. We do have a new member named Godzilla, but it's hard to say whether he is a new member or not. Wanda, Doctor, stop talking in riddles. Please be clear. Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan. It means literally. Logan, Riddler, get out of the live broadcast room. Bruce Wayne, Doctor, do you mean that the other party is not a human, or even a human creature, but a monster? Just like Bermuda, Leafrot, and Jetton? Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan, that's right. Guan, as an artificial biological weapon, Jetton does not have advanced thinking ability, but will the screening room select a creature without thinking and communication ability to enter the screening room? Constantine, maybe the other party has, but the content of our communication does not arouse the other party's interest. If the other party is not human, but other creatures, then the other party's way of thinking and thinking logic may be completely different from ours. Our communication may be pure noise in his eyes. In this case, it is very likely that the other party will not say a word. Godzilla on the air. 99 top secret file. Black and white pictures flashed by quickly, and pictures appeared and disappeared quickly. The pictures kept switching between still pictures and moving pictures. In the passionate music, a nuclear warhead with a giant beast head was aimed at a dorsal fin moving on the sea. A mushroom cloud rose from the ground, and the dazzling white light illuminated everything. What is this? Everyone looked confused. Wait a minute. Tony seemed to understand something and said, if Godzilla might not be a human, then the portrait printed on the nuclear warhead is likely to be Godzilla, which means it was used to destroy Godzilla, and the nuclear bomb finally exploded at sea, and there was a small moving mountain range at the time. That wouldn't be Godzilla. Logan, this guy also resisted a nuclear bomb? Captain America, Logan, I remember you said before that you survived a nuclear bomb explosion. Logan, yes, but that was when I was hiding in a place similar to a tunnel. More than 80% of the shock waves and flames did not hit me directly, but I was still burned to charcoal. Logan, but I don't feel the so-called nuclear radiation. Maybe it's because my genes can repair themselves. Loki Odinson, in other words, that Godzilla has died under the nuclear bomb. It's really interesting. Why don't the theaters change his head portrait to gray and white? Godzilla, how could I die from my food? Wanda, it has to be you. Loki, you made me angry with just one sentence. Bruce Wayne, is that giant dorsal fin you? Tony Stark, what do you mean by nuclear bombs are your food? Logan, have you ever been hit by a nuclear bomb? Diana Prince, are you a giant beast? Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan, have you seen King Ghidorah? Peter Parker, ask one by one. Peter Parker, Mr. Godzilla, everyone is just too excited. We are usually very friendly. Don't be impatient, take your time. Peter Parker, of course, these are your private questions. You don't have to answer them. We won't blame you. In the Pacific Ocean, the wounded Godzilla dragged his tired body to swim towards the bottom of the sea. Here, this is your gift. A gift box as big as Godzilla's head appeared in front of Godzilla, and the water pressure had no effect on the gift box. Godzilla was silent for a moment, but still accepted the gift. He had watched a lot of videos along the way. He didn't care about humans, but some of them seemed a little different from the creatures that he had imagined to be no different from bugs, such as the one wearing red and blue clothes. After he dealt with his nemesis, the Mutos, he wanted to go back to sleep, but was stopped by the voice that claimed to be from the projection room, asking if he could play his video. Godzilla didn't have any special feelings about this. The projection room and the human named Peter Parker gave him a good first impression. As an antique who has lived for hundreds of millions of years, Godzilla has long been accustomed to a lonely life, and the arrival of the projection room has brought a different light to his long life. Although he didn't know the principle, Godzilla could understand every word they said, and even if there were some things he had never seen before, the corresponding knowledge would appear in his mind. After it dealt with its natural enemy, it could also spare some energy to take a look at the projection room. Image continues. Scene switch. A helicopter landed in a mine with a high level of radiation. Drive Sarazawa. I'm Jerry. I'm here to remind you that the situation is very bad. Because of the noise in the mine and the roar of the helicopter, Jerry could only speak to Dr. Sarazawa in a hoarse voice. The organization sent me to check the situation this morning. I just took a look around and told them I needed you. Last month, the miners discovered radioactive ore bags. They were very excited, thinking they had found a uranium deposit, and began to mobilize large machinery here, but the valley floor suddenly collapsed and fell into an underground cave. All gone, all gone. Preliminary statistics show that 40 miners are buried underneath. Radiation again. Bruce frowned, feeling that things were not that simple. Could it be that the next story will start with Godzilla being attracted by radiation? The investigation team put on isolation suits and went deeper into the mine step by step. When they first discovered the radioactive ore pocket, the radiation intensity was only half of what it is now. It seems that once it came into contact with the outside air, it accelerated the process of some kind of reaction. Roar. Godzilla saw the scene on the screen and roared angrily. Even if he was extremely tired, and even if he was hurt, the king of monsters was still the king of monsters. All intelligent creatures within hundreds of miles fled desperately, not daring to stay for a moment. With Godzilla as the center, a terrifying shockwave swept towards the surroundings. The marine creatures that did not have time to escape became victims of the Emperor's anger. The Emperor was furious, and millions of corpses were buried and blood flowed. They were his own kind, killed by his old enemy. Chapter 617. Godzilla and Muto. Is that bone an elephant bone? Peter frowned. Although he had already acquired supervision, he forcibly adjusted the brightness of the screening room for a better, so-called viewing experience. Even if Noah himself came here to watch, the effect would be the same. That is, he couldn't see what it was at all. Godzilla, those are the bones of my people. Godzilla also watched the previous Man of Steel. It seems that whoever is at home has to be the commentator. Godzilla also followed the local customs and began his commentary career. Godzilla, this must be the nest of the mortal enemy of my people, the Muto. Peter Parker, sorry. Godzilla, it doesn't matter, the Muto is dead. Logan, wow, this head is bigger than that of an ordinary elephant. Godzilla, those two cocoons are the cocoons of the Muto. Captain America, since these are cocoons, there must be adults? Godzilla, that's right. A long time ago, an extremely powerful Muto appeared. It was called the Supreme Muto by other Mutos, and the Mutos were the mortal enemies and natural enemies of our tribe. Godzilla, the food sources of the Mutos and our tribe are very similar, so our two tribes often go to war over the source of food. Moreover, the Mutos use the bodies of our tribe members as nests to reproduce, and the important organs in the bodies of our tribe cubs are important food for them. Godzilla's words were vague, and they couldn't force it. You can't force an old antique who is not even a human to suddenly learn human language and become a master of human language. They can only continue to use their brains to fill in the gaps and complete what Godzilla said bit by bit. Image continues. This is some kind of fossil, right? The people in isolation suits looked at the huge skeletons around them and felt a chill in their hearts. I have been digging for more than 30 years and have never seen such a fossil. The people moved forward and finally saw the full picture of the fossil. When they saw this huge creature, they were stunned. Could it be it? No. Dr. Serizawa said, this is much older than it. Are they talking about Godzilla? It's very likely. Bruce Wayne said, remember the previous footage from 1999? Maybe Godzilla fought humans in 1999. Godzilla, human. I seem to have seen this kind of animal when I was active back then. It's the first time that humans, who claim to be the most intelligent creatures on Earth, are called animals by other creatures. What on earth is this? A cocoon? An egg? The skeleton has become a fossil, but this structure has been completely preserved. Everyone walked forward and finally found a big hole. The Muto has already hatched. Japan, Quirulo City. In a small wooden house under the snow-capped mountains, a little boy was listening to his father on the phone. Joe Brody, a supervisor of a nuclear power plant, detected a set of strange seismic waves that day, but no earthquake was found at other observation points. He reported it to his superiors, but was not taken seriously. He could only keep calling others in the hope of getting some help, at least to make good preparations for protection. As an engineer, Brody could not tolerate such a thing. Until he got in the car, Brody remembered that today was his birthday, after being reminded by his wife and children. Arriving at the nuclear power plant, the frequency and waveform of the vibration became faster and larger. Brody's wife led the team to go underground for inspection, while Brody stayed on the ground to continue detecting seismic waves. Just as Brody was thinking, the seismic wave hit again. Brody asked to shut down the reactor without hesitation, but something had already leaked underground. That was nuclear fuel. The team was led in by Brody's wife Sandra. Because of his wife, Brody did not close the safety door immediately, but wanted to wait for his wife to come out together. Joe, close the safety door. Akashi kept calling Brody. In the end, Brody could only press the manual shutdown button with tears in his eyes, watching his colleague and wife die painfully in the nuclear fuel. Take good care of Ford, and be a good father. I will. Brody nodded in agreement with tears in his eyes. The shaking became more and more intense, and even the buildings outside began to collapse. The whole city felt the vibration of the earthquake, and the nuclear power plant was directly reduced to ruins. Ford, who was still in school, looked at the scene in front of him, as if he understood everything. 15 years later. What does this mean? Everyone looked confused, but Bruce seemed to understand a little. Bruce Wayne, Godzilla, do you and the mutos both feed on nuclear energy? Godzilla, what is nuclear energy? Bruce Wayne. Even though Bruce Wayne is an all-rounder, it's still a bit too difficult for him to explain nuclear energy to a monster. Bruce Wayne, I suspect that the accident at the nuclear power plant was not a natural earthquake but man-made sabotage, and the one who did it was the Muto. Godzilla, Muto? Logan, why? Bruce Wayne, cinema halls generally don't show a meaningless video. This video must have its purpose, and then there are subtitles 15 years later, which means that this can be understood as a memory. Since it is a memory, it is very likely that it is the memory of an important person who appears in the video later. Bruce Wayne, combined with the last shot falling on Brody's son Ford, and the previous scene showed the mine, and the Muto's cave. I think it was the newly born Muto that attacked the nuclear power plant. Bruce Wayne, wait a minute, if the Mutos attack the nuclear power plant, according to the predation principle of organisms after birth, the first thing the Mutos will do is most likely to get food, and then both the Mutos and Godzilla feed on nuclear fuel! Exclamation mark. Tony Stark, what kind of crazy creature would feed on nuclear fuel? Strange, not surprising. The avatars of the cosmic demon that my counterparts eat are much more powerful than nuclear fuel. Look at how much my counterparts have eaten. Tony Stark, I think maybe the other party is not eating nuclear fuel, but nuclear radiation, and Godzilla said before that they are mortal enemies with the Mutos, because the Mutos need their organs. Tony Stark, the kingdom of light lives on light energy, which is also a kind of radiation. In addition to the special case of idealism like Tigger, Hickory and others also feed on radiation. Chapter 618, Wanda. Tony Stark, excluding the illogical river god in the kingdom of light, we have seen how big the bodies of Godzilla's people are. It is impossible for ordinary food to support their consumption. But if the food is changed to nuclear energy, it is reasonable. The video continues. 15 years later, a young soldier looks outside, his eyes full of longing. He is Ford, and now he has become a soldier. Today is his day off, and he has not been home for more than a year. The scene switches, and a cake is written with cream with the words "Welcome home." Dad Ford has grown up and become a father, with a beautiful wife and lovely children. F***K. Wanda suddenly felt that the tea in her hand was not fragrant. This is actually me. Wait. Why does that man look so much like Pirate? No, 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 no. Vision also looked at a face that was not knowing whether to laugh or cry, and could only sigh that there are so many coincidences in the multiverse. Loki Odinson, why do I think that woman looks so much like Wanda? Peter Parker, not like, that's fine. Bruce Wayne, is she Wanda's equivalent in the Godzilla world? That's such a coincidence. Tony Stark, it's a bit too coincidental. It's okay to have an equivalent, but it's a bit too coincidental that Wanda's equivalent is Ford's wife. It feels like a bad joke played by the multiverse. Wanda didn't want to talk. She was glad that no one recognized Ford's appearance when he grew up. Fortunately, Ford was different from Pilot when he was a child. Otherwise it wouldn't be a joke. It would be a big joke. The video continues. A welcome party. The family of 3 is very warm. After putting the child to sleep, the couple finally have time to chat together. They haven't seen each other for a long time. At this time, a phone call came in. As she listened, Ella's face changed. What's wrong, honey? Let me guess what they are selling again. Traffic lights or roasted corn? Ford was joking, but Ellie told Ford. Joe was arrested in Japan. Ellie, have you seen my pants? In the closet. While helping Ford pack up, Ellie asked, why did Joe trespass into the restricted area? Why else? He is a lone hero looking for the truth. Ford's tone was very bad, as if the other party was not his father, but someone he hated, but had to meet, such as a boss, or a blind date you didn't want to meet at all. I can't understand his crazy theories. Looking at her husband's performance, Ellie could only persuade him, your father is a good man, and he needs your help now. Ford, he has nothing left. Yes. Ford turned his head and said, me too, but at least I survived. Ford looked at his wife, sighed, and said, every time I get close to him, he wants to pull me back to the past. I can't do it. I can't let our family get hurt again. But he is also your family. Japan, Honolulu City. In a police station, Ford met his father, Joe Brody. After bailing Brody out, Brody took Ford home. Father and son are usually not as close as mother and daughter, especially Ford and Brody's relationship is still very bad. In Brody's house, Ford looked at the newspapers on the wall, wanting to say something, but not knowing where to start. A newspaper read, Quarantine Zone, the city of Quello is under heavy security. Is Ellie okay? Brody tried to find some topics to chat with his son and Sam. My god, how old must he be now? 3 years old? Or 3.5? Almost 5 years old. Ford picked up a book on the bookshelf and said, I thought you had figured it out. What is this? Echolocation? Don't move. Brody ran over and said, I can't find it. If you mess it up. Communication between parasites? Sorry. Brody's attitude in front of his son was a little humble, and he didn't seem like a father, but a debtor facing his creditor. I'm studying bioacoustics. Faced with his father's lame explanation, Ford asked directly, what are you doing back there? The so-called illegal invasion is nonsense. Brody was very excited when talking about it. He explained to Ford, I just want to go back to the house we used to live in. You broke the law. The house is in the quarantine area. Yes, that's right. Brody said with wide eyes, the new data is exactly the same as that day. I can prove it to you. If I'm lucky enough, I can go back to that house. Brody became more and more excited when he said this. He took down the information hanging on the wall with trembling hands and said to Ford, I can prove to you, to the whole world, that it was not a natural disaster. It's not an abnormal earthquake wave. Dad, father and son have taken different paths. Tony said. Ford obviously doesn't plan to go back to the past, and Brody's actions obviously made Ford very sad, as if someone was exposing his scars. Brody's wife, Ford's mother, died in that disaster. It's normal that Ford doesn't want to mention it. Strange said, we have a God's perspective and Godzilla as a commentator. We know that there are monsters, Godzilla, and Godzilla's nemesis Muto. But other people don't know. In their eyes, Brody, who is committed to finding the truth, is a madman who is overly sad because of the loss of his wife. But, in the world of madmen, what we think is abnormal is normal to him. Maybe in the eyes of madmen, we are the madmen. You can't say right or wrong, crazy or normal in this kind of thing. They all go on the path they choose. Brody chooses to stay in the past and chooses to find the truth, while Ford goes to the future and doesn't think about the sadness of the past. This is the biggest contradiction in this world. For different people, completely opposite choices can be right. After watching the radio drama of the Galaxy Rescue Team, Sora's words almost made me laugh to death. I finally know why every stolen plugin was invented by Aguang, because Aguang is the only one working in the entire Science and Technology Bureau. Chapter 619, Father and Son in Battle. Brody stopped his somewhat crazy narration at Ford's roar. He also knew that his son had grown up and had his own life. It was already very rude for him to ask him to pick him up, and it would be even more inappropriate to drag him into his revenge journey. He promised his wife that he would be a good father. Now Ford has a happy family, and he has fulfilled his responsibilities as a father. Then what's left is revenge. Brody firmly believed that something caused the nuclear leak that day instead of a natural earthquake. Over the years, in addition to raising Ford to adulthood, the remaining belief that supports him to live is revenge on the man behind the scenes. Yes, his wife has passed away, and his son has grown up and does not understand him and is alienated from him. He has almost done what he needs to do. The only thing left is revenge. Where is your mother? Brody said, looking at the direction of the quarantine area in the distance. For me, she has always been there. The evacuation was too hasty. I didn't even leave a photo of her. Hearing this, Ford couldn't hold it anymore. Although he was estranged from his father, he loved his father. He couldn't understand his father, but he just loved his father in his own way. There is always only a line between a madman and a genius. If you don't cross it, you are a genius, and if you cross it, you are a madman. For some things, it is too early for humans to understand. Ford couldn't understand his father. He could only see his father from his own perspective. He hoped that his father could let go of these things. You can't do this anymore. You know I've tried my best. Brody turned to his son and asked, you know, right? Ford turned his head away. He couldn't answer this question. No matter what he answered, it might make his father fall deeper and deeper. He could only say, come home with me. Let's go home together. There's a little boy at home waiting for his grandfather. We'll leave tomorrow. Brody nodded gently at Ford, but there were other emotions hidden in his expression. My intuition tells me that Brody won't give up. Peter looked at the father and son with tears in his eyes. He felt very choked up. He wanted to do something but was powerless. But I really hope Brody can let it go. Go home with Ford and live happily with his family. But he won't do that. The obsession accumulated over decades is not so easy to clear. Only 1 hour. Okay. Ford woke up the next day and heard his father seem to be on the phone, and the content of the phone made him feel uneasy. You can't go. Ford walked behind Brody and said, you have to go home with me. You promised me. Only 1 hour. That won't work either. Looking at his resolute son, Brody's calm voice was full of determination. I came back here and spent 6 years looking at that barbed wire. They thought it was a major design mistake, so they wanted to cover up the truth. Looking at his son's expression, Brody could only continue. One day I met a man who was engaged in offshore shipping. He passed by the reactor every day, and I asked him to help install a frequency monitor on the buoy. 2 weeks ago, Brody looked at Ford and said, because I check it every other day, and I was free anyway. So 2 weeks ago, when I was tuning the frequency, an expression that could be called relief appeared on Brody's face. Oh my god. Got it. Brody said, whatever it is, it's there. It's the thing they guarded so carefully. It started talking again. I heard it talking. Brody put on his clothes and said, I have to go back to our house and find my old disk. If it's still there, compare the data in it with the data this time to prove that my point of view is not fabricated out of thin air. I'm not what you think. I will find the truth. At any cost. Ford listened to Brody's story blankly. He just wanted to ask, why don't you give up? Ford couldn't understand his father. He really didn't want his father to be immersed in the sadness of the past. He hoped that his father would walk out of the old shadow and start a new life. I asked your mother to go down. Looking at his son who was sighing silently, Brody told him, the cause of the accident is not that simple. Ford could hear regret in his father's words. You know, that day was his father's birthday. I don't want to hear it. Brody's face was already full of wrinkles. In countless late nights, he wanted to leave here to find his wife, but the promise to his wife and the responsibility as a father made him stay. However, the long time and regret had already made his body overwhelmed. He was able to stick to it after Ford got married and came back here, all relying on a belief. Brody looked at his son. The little guy had grown into a big boy. Although he was distant and didn't understand him, Brody could feel his son's love for him. He could feel it from yesterday when he called him home, and from the blessings he would always call every Christmas. The child had grown up and left the protection of his old father. But as a father, Brody decided to teach his son one thing. That is, I know you don't want to hear it, but you can't keep avoiding the problem. Son, you can't bury all this in the past. Ford's eyes were slightly red, and his eyes were already wet. He shook his head and nodded, as if he had made up his mind. The true feelings between people are always the most touching. The preciousness of some things can only be understood after experiencing the loss. As we all know, there are basically orphans per capita in the screening room. And this kind of true love between father and son also touched the strings in the hearts of everyone in the screening room. The light boat cut a long line on the water, passed through layers of fog, and came to the shore covered with barbed wire. nuclear radiation isolation area, and on the boat, there were a father and son wearing isolation suits. Why did Ford go there too? Why else? He can't let go of his dad. I thought Ford would leave directly, but I didn't expect him to go to the isolation area with his father at the risk of his life. I went out for a drink today, and the idiot who booked the hotel got the location wrong. More than a dozen people went to another place. I rode a small electric car around for more than 20 minutes. I walked Jifang Road 3 times. The closest trip took me more than 100 meters away from the hotel. I will never forget this in my life. Chapter 620, The Sleeping Muto. In the deserted city, weeds grow everywhere, and the vehicles on the roadside are covered with dust. Various wild animals live here. When there is no human footprint in a place, nature will show its power, letting people understand how insignificant human efforts are in front of the power of nature. This is a quarantine restricted area, which is where the nuclear fuel leaked that year. Brody looked at the stray dogs that left in a hurry with confusion in his eyes. It stands to reason that the radiation value here is far beyond the range that normal creatures can bear. The group of stray dogs seem to have lived here for a long time. It doesn't make sense that they are so healthy and there is no trace of mutation on their bodies. You know, dogs are not fruit flies. Fruit flies can stay in the nuclear explosion test site like nothing happened, but dogs can't. Nuclear radiation will destroy their DNA. Animals' instinct to seek benefits and avoid harm should not allow them to live here. Besides, they have seen more than one such scene since they came in. What is even more bizarre is that, since they came in, a large number of animals have been fleeing. If they are fleeing because of nuclear radiation, it seems extremely unreasonable. Could it be an earthquake? Exclamation mark. Brody suddenly thought of something and quickly took out an instrument to test nuclear radiation. However, when the instrument was turned on, the number on it was 0.00. Dad. Ford looked at Brody in confusion and asked puzzledly, "We are still 3 blocks away from our destination? Why don't you go, Dad?" Brody looked at his son, and the next second, he made a bold decision. He took off the protective device on his face. "Dad." Brody's actions not only scared Ford, but also everyone in the screening room. Well, except for Janitor and the River God. Although the detector shows 0, what if the detector is broken? Peter stroked his chest and said, "He is too risky. I'm scared of him." No. Bruce keenly noticed the problem. There is a problem. Is the detector really broken? No. The detector may not be broken. I mean, there is a problem with that place. Bruce said, "Nature itself has radiation. Although this radiation is so tiny that it is almost imperceptible, the result given by the detector can never be 0. If it is 0, then there is only one possibility. That place has been artificially cleared of all radiation. As far as I know, at least in my world, there is no such technology. In that world, if humans have this ability, they would not leave the restricted area for it to dissipate naturally." In addition to the unclear content explained by Godzilla before, its nemesis the Mutos, and the strange cry frequency discovered by Brody before, then there is only one possibility: the Mutos have absorbed all the nuclear radiation in this area. Image continues. Brody opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The air was extremely fresh, without any strange smell, especially any metallic smell. Brody did not feel any dizziness or physical discomfort. Even the air here was much fresher than the air in the city that was filled with smoke and industrial exhaust. Brody looked at Ford. His inner thoughts were finally confirmed. Brody took a few deep breaths, suppressed his inner excitement, and said to Ford, "The radiation index here should have been fatal, but now there is nothing." Brody led his son forward. The plants looked particularly lush without human pollution and destruction. There were even cracks on the concrete road. The emerald green weeds showed extremely terrifying vitality and grew wantonly. On the bamboo beside the road, a fat millipede, if you really don't understand, just treat it as a worm, was eating. The moment Brody saw the millipede, he confirmed his idea, and Ford's expression was also a little shocked. He was good at biology. Because of his father, he also learned some biology. Although he didn't know much, he also knew that millipedes had very high requirements for the environment. Not to mention the nuclear contaminated environment. Millipedes can't survive in some too dirty industrial environments. After all, this thing is not a fruit fly. But now there are not only plants and animals, but also millipedes, which are scavengers with very high environmental requirements. The environment here is not like an area contaminated by nuclear fuel at all, but like an ecological protection area. Ford also took off his protective mask, just like his father. The father and son were one in front and one behind. Ford was behind Brody with a flashlight, protecting his father, just like his father protected him before. Thank God. After searching for a long time, Brody finally found what he was looking for in the ruins. The computer he used for work had long been covered with moss. Brody could only pray that the data in the hard drive was not damaged. Just then, he picked up a photo frame. The photo frame was broken, but the miracle was that the photos inside were not destroyed in more than 10 years, and there was no trace of oxidation and yellowing. Everything was the same as more than 10 years ago. Brody slowly raised his head. Yes, the banner that once hung to celebrate the birthday was still there. If nothing happened that day, their family should have happily spent their own birthday party together. Just then, the wind started to blow, and a helicopter flew over the city. The father and son followed all the way, and finally found that in the center of the restricted area, a huge building was slowly being built. That was the nuclear power plant back then. Strange pointed at the building above and said, "I compared it. Yes, that's the nuclear power plant. Interesting." Tony, as the chairman of Stark Group and a well-known weapons expert, recognized the model of the helicopter at a glance. That helicopter is an Apache, an armed helicopter of the US military, but the model is one generation behind. The things here must be related to the government of that world. Brody looked at the nuclear power plant for a few times, turned around and said, "I don't know, I didn't see anything." Brody didn't say this to his son, but to the patrol personnel who came. "Do you know where this is? Don't move." The group escorted the father and son back to the secret base, which was the nuclear power plant under reconstruction. Brody didn't say much when he saw this. He kept observing the surrounding environment along the way. To be honest, he didn't want to get involved. He really just wanted to take the things and leave. When he saw the nuclear power plant under reconstruction, Brody regretted why he came to take a look. And in the center of the nuclear power plant, a huge object that looked like a meteorite was quietly staying in place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621, Muto Awakens. Pacific Ocean. Godzilla saw the other party, even though the other party had become a dead soul under his claws, but he was still very unhappy. This thing, after all, is his nemesis. Logan, do you know? According to my intuition, this thing must be that Muto. Captain America, be confident. Logan, this thing must be a Muto. It seems that the military has already found out the truth, and then they set up a brand new outpost here to observe the situation of the other party. Ace, human, are you trying to master the uncontrollable power again? Peter Parker, Mr. Godzilla, are you okay there? If the Muto is your nemesis, can you deal with it? Although I can't help, if necessary, I may be able to give you some advice. Godzilla, no need, the Muto is dead. Godzilla's vertical pupils stared at Peter on the screen, trying to remember this human in his mind. The image continues. 10 seconds. 10 seconds left. All the base staff rushed to the designated positions and performed the actions they had practiced countless times. Just then, a sound gradually sounded. It was a sound similar to a heartbeat. The heartbeat became stronger and stronger, and even emitted a yellow light. In a command room, Dr. Sarazawa looked at the data table and said, 7.2 seconds. The reaction is getting stronger and stronger. The growth of the index has reached a new high. Oh my god, this is worse than expected. Dr. Sarazawa looked overwhelmed, and on the other side, a manager came to report the situation. That is, the two invaders who were captured, Brody and Ford. We have more important things here. Let Dr. Graham deal with it. Dr. Sarazawa's mind is now full of this giant beast that may wake up at any time, and he is not even in the mood to deal with two guys who for some unknown reason, may have trespassed into the nuclear radiation restricted area in order to become internet celebrities. Drive Graham is handling it. She asked me to tell you that there is an intruder who said he worked here before. The two hurried to the interrogation room. Brody angrily asked to see his son. He had already figured out most of the truth. The people of this organization did not dare to send Brody and his son to the police station because they knew that there was no nuclear radiation here. They could only bring them back for interrogation. Brody knew that in front of him was the truth that had troubled him for 15 years and made him suffer countless sarcasm, but he still cared more about his son. Where is my son? I want to see my son. Give me my bag and disc back. I want to speak to the person in charge here, not you. Brody was angry, questioning and roaring loudly. I know you are looking at me, just like watching fish in an aquarium. Right? It doesn't matter, because I know what happened here. You have always claimed that this is a death zone, but it is not the case. You are lying. Because the truth is you are hiding something here. I was right, wasn't I? My wife died here. She was killed here. I have the right to know. I have the right to know the truth. Looking at Brody, who was crying and roaring loudly, Dr. Serizawa didn't say much, but checked Brody's data and disk. Dr. Serizawa found that the things on this side were not ordinary. These were all data from 15 years ago. He always thought that all the data on that day had been lost. At this time, the lights began to flicker. Seeing this, Brody said angrily, look, it's like this again, just like that day. This is not some bullshit transformer failure, it's an electromagnetic pulse. Electrical appliances for several miles will be affected, and now it happens again. This is also the cause of the original accident. Don't you understand? This will send us back to the Stone Age. Haven't you figured it out? The lights flickered even more violently, and in a control room, the red light of the emergency alarm was on, and a bald manager ran over and asked hurriedly, is it a nuclear leak? No, the gamma rays are still zero. It has sucked all 3 reactors dry. The heartbeat and the flickering yellow light became stronger and stronger, and finally, it moved. It's finished eating. Dr. Serizawa handed the paper in his hand to Dr. Graham and said, look at this. Oh my god, this is the same waveform. It is the culprit of the meltdown accident 15 years ago. According to Dr. Serizawa, this muto doesn't seem to be raised or controlled by them. Tony said, Drive Serizawa and his team should have discovered the existence of the muto and then started researching the muto, rather than commanding the muto to attack the nuclear power plant. Godzilla, muto, is also a titan. How can it obey humans? Diana Prince, titan? Exclamation mark. Diana Prince, also a titan? Diana frowned and found that things were not that simple. The video continues. Drive Graham also said, electromagnetic pulse, this is why it absorbs energy. Absorb all radiation, and then break out of the cocoon. Turn off the power. Everyone evacuate the first area, and activate the emergency plan. The entire base began an emergency evacuation. In the command room, Dr. Serizawa looked at the cocoon he had raised for 15 years, and reluctantly ordered, start, kill it. The button was pressed, and a series of terrifying high voltage electricity that was enough to instantly turn a person into charcoal, or even turn a person into ashes in the true sense, poured into the body of the muto, trying to kill the muto. It seems that Dr. Serizawa is not a bad guy, at least not the kind of villain who wants to control the mutos to conquer the world. He is just a scientist who wants to do research. Drive Serizawa must feel very uncomfortable destroying the scientific research product he has been researching for 15 years. That's for sure. For a scientist, a research object that he has invested all his efforts and years or even decades of time in is really like his own offspring, and now, he wants to destroy him with his own hands. Godzilla, it can't be destroyed. This level of electric current has no effect on me or the mutos. The mutos don't care about this level of attack at all, and may even be awakened faster by this attack. Right square bracket. Chapter 622, How to Explain Nuclear Physics to an Ancient Beast. Just as Godzilla said, the giant object on the screen began to move. Image continues. The high voltage current not only failed to kill the mutos, but even activated their activity. To be honest, it's a bit crazy that even nuclear fusion is not afraid of you using current to kill it. After a short period of intense activity, the giant object regained its composure, but this depressing atmosphere is more like the calm before the storm. A staff member in protective clothing walked forward to investigate, but saw something moving. The next second, the top of the giant object instantly broke, and a huge monster emerged from it. Mutos. This thing is just the cocoon of the mutos. Oh my god. The power grid was attacked by an electromagnetic pulse. The power is completely cut off. Start the backup generator immediately. But all the lines are paralyzed because of the electromagnetic pulse. Check the lines and try the backup generator again. Brody looked at the extinguished lights and the switches that were turned on because of the power outage and silently praised the security technology here compared with the Science and Technology Bureau of the Kingdom of Light. On the other side, Ford only noticed this place. With the efforts of the people in the command room, the power was barely restored, but at the moment of restoration, everyone saw the giant beast that looked like a mantis, Muto. Relying on the interception of the power grid and the previous security measures, Muto could not break free for a while, but it was only for a while. Ford was locked in a separate cell in Yegian. Because of Muto's struggle, the cell was unattended. Ford took this opportunity to escape, and Brody ran to the iron bridge, but because of the damage caused by Muto's struggle, the entire iron bridge was pulled down. Dad. Ford's eyes were red with anger when he saw this, and he froze in his place. When he turned around, he saw the murderer, a monster over 30 meters tall. Maybe it was lucky, maybe it was unfortunate. The Muto did not cause too much damage, but after breaking free, it grew a pair of wings and flew away. So, 15 years ago, the Muto attacked the nuclear power plant and then cocooned here, and 15 years later, the Muto broke out of the cocoon. No, that's not right. To be precise, 15 years ago, the Muto attacked the nuclear power plant because nuclear fuel is its food. The Muto was looking for food. Strange dragged his chin and said, "This is much better than those third-rate monster movies. How could such a terrifying behemoth eat humans? Eating people can't keep up with their consumption. Only nuclear energy, a substance containing terrifying energy, can replenish their consumption and even allow them to evolve." Thanos. According to the eating speed and development speed of the Muto, it doesn't make sense for it to grow so fast. If it weren't for the reactor that humans fed it for 15 years, the Muto should still be a cocoon now. Peter Parker, Mr. Godzilla, you said that you lived 100 million years ago. Godzilla, I don't know. The concept of time units was taught to me by the screening room. Peter felt a headache for a moment. The other party was not human at all, and it was impossible for him to have human cognition and concepts in his mind. Moreover, the world was different, and it was even more impossible to use the situation in their world to fit the situation in Godzilla's world. Peter Parker, anyway, how did you eat at that time? There were no humans or man-made reactors in that era. Godzilla, at that time, there was still a lot of food in the world. My race had an organ in their bodies that could absorb food to provide energy for us, but the Mutos did not, so the Mutos had to hunt my kind if they wanted to reproduce, so we were enemies. Tony Stark, so can I understand that there is something similar to a nuclear reactor in your body, and then in the era when you were active, I call it the age of giant beasts. At that time, the nuclear radiation in the air was still very strong. You could easily extract nuclear radiation from the air and then add the atomic reactor in your body. You only need to breathe to survive, right? Godzilla, I don't understand. Tony looked helpless. It was beyond his ability to explain various nuclear physics terms to an ancient giant beast. Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan. Godzilla is self-sufficient, while the Mutos are predatory. I think there must be more giant beasts in that era. Godzilla, that's right. Mothra, the Khan family, Rodan, Anguirus. Some of them are allies of our tribe, and some are enemies. The video continues. Ellie saw the news from Japan at home, and made an anxious phone call, but when she turned her head to look at her son, Ellie could only suppress the fear in her heart. comfort her son and take on the responsibility of a mother. Wanda looked at Ellie on the screen and couldn't help but hold Vision's hand tightly. Every time she saw such a plot, she was very grateful to the screening room for changing her and Vision's fate. Especially this time the person who appeared was her own counterpart. The entire sea area was taken over by the US military. Dr. Cerezola looked at the mess around him and didn't know what to think. Dr. Graham came over with a naval colonel who said straight to the point, "I'm Colonel Russell Hampton. I'm glad to find you, Dr. Cerezola. I have a general understanding of the Monarch project you are participating in. I was told that your organization has some research and understanding of the unidentified creatures. Is that right?" Looking at Dr. Cerezola, who nodded, General Russell pursued him relentlessly and told him directly, "I'm here to inform you that the Monarch project has now been taken over by the military, so please come with us. Do you need anyone to assist you?" Dr. Cerezola looked into the distance, where Ford was helping the medical staff to send Brody to the emergency room. Those two. Dr. Cerezola was referring to Brody and his son. The Monarch project? It doesn't sound like a good thing. What is that Cerezola going to do? Brody is so seriously injured. The helicopter took off and flew over the deserted city. On the plane, Brody's condition became worse and worse. "I'm sorry," Ford said to the pale Brody. "You are right. Go back to your family." Looking at his son, Brody squeezed out a sentence. "Protect their safety. Okay." Ford did not speak, but held Brody's hand tightly and nodded at him. "No matter what happens, Dad." Ford did not hear the rest. He looked at his father's eyes slowly closing and hurriedly shouted, "Dad, don't sleep, Dad." Chapter 623. Who gave Godzilla the name? Dad. Brody slowly closed his eyes. Even adrenaline and atrial fibrillation could not save him. At least, Brody heard his son's apology before closing his eyes and eased the relationship with his son, thus proving himself. For a preacher, this is the second best ending. On the US Saratoga, a group of commanders are discussing countermeasures. "This is our goal. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack." Muto, a giant unidentified land creature. A white-haired commander looked at the winged beast flying away on the screen and said, "Of course, it's no longer a land creature now. It's learned to fly. Now the whole world thinks this was an earthquake. Then our best bet is to maintain the status quo." Before the Muto disappeared, it crossed the Pacific Ocean to the east and emitted a highly destructive electromagnetic pulse. Our radar and alien transmission system was severely interfered with, so we can only send people to track it and send back the captured video. I especially emphasize that it is currently, because we will soon restore the equipment, and then we will definitely find this thing. After the highest ranking admiral gave a speech, he walked up to Dr. Cerezola and introduced himself. A Navy soldier found Ford, who also served in the military and even had the rank of captain. The soldier took him to the conference room. Dr. Cerezola and Dr. Graham came over to apologize for Brody's death, and then said that they needed Ford's help because he was Brody's son, and Brody was a ruthless man who could monitor the traces of Muto activities with civilian equipment. A video was played, and the black and white picture proved that the video was very old. This is the Nautilus. In 1954, the nuclear submarine reached an unprecedented depth for the first time, and then awakened some creatures. A giant dorsal fin like a mountain range emerged from the seabed, and Dr. Graham explained, an ancient predator king, millions of years earlier than humans. Godzilla bared his teeth, and he remembered that it seemed that this thing disturbed his dream and woke him up from a deep sleep of who knows how many years. Although the other party woke him up, Godzilla forgave him for the fact that the other party had thoughtfully brought him breakfast not long after he woke up. Although more than 10 years is a long time for humans, for an antique that has lived from hundreds of millions of years to the present, it may really be just a few days. I hope I can have a good sleep this time and not be woken up by some messy things. Wanda, this is Godzilla. Peter Parker, so big. A guang. I estimated it visually. If calculated using the units on Earth, the part exposed above the sea alone is at least 30 meters. Tony Stark, at GODZILLA, your tribe was active in the Paleolithic Age. Godzilla. Tony Stark, forget it, just ignore what I said. Tony felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Tony Stark, the genius, billionaire, playboy, Iron Man, leader of the Avengers, was explaining the Paleolithic age to a non-human amphibian who didn't know what it was. He would rather teach Captain how to use a cell phone. Although both of them are antiques, Captain is at least a human. Image continues. In that era, the radioactivity on Earth was 10 times stronger than it is now. Dr. Graham continued her explanation. This creature and its companions feed on radiation. As the radiation level on the surface weakened, they gradually adapted to living in the depths of the ocean and deeper underground, absorbing radiation emitted by the core of the Earth. The organization we work for, Monarch, was established with this discovery. The Monarch Project, a secret multinational joint organization. Go find it, study it, and do everything you can to understand it. Loki sneered at the words, then looked at Godzilla's dorsal fin on the screen and spoke in the live broadcast room. Loki Odinson, let me translate. Go find it, capture it, and study whether its power can be used for yourself. Try your best to understand it, and try every way to obtain its power. If it doesn't work, destroy it. Godzilla, human, capture me. Holy Lord, that's right. Humans are such insidious and cunning creatures. I was once deprived of my power and sealed into a stone by them. Although you are not a demon, I advise you to run away if you see a human. Godzilla, run away if I see a human. Godzilla was aroused by the Holy Lord's words. He didn't feel anything about the changes on the ground. Anyway, he lived in the sea now and went ashore to kill the Mutos. As for humans, this weak creature that once worshipped many of their titans as gods now actually controlled the world. Godzilla didn't have any interest in it, but now, he began to be curious. Image continues. Drive Sarazora looks at the giant dorsal fin on the screen and says to everyone, we call it Godzilla. The supreme ruler of the primitive ecosystem. It is God, no matter from which angle. Interesting. Strange stroked his beard and said, look, Dr. Sarazora called Godzilla Godzilla, and Godzilla's real name is also Godzilla, so the question is this a coincidence, or is there any special reason? Peter Parker, Mr. Godzilla, how did you get your name? Godzilla, my name. Godzilla was silent by this sentence, but Bruce had some different ideas. Logically speaking, a giant beast like Godzilla has completely different thinking logic and language rules from humans. The name Godzilla has a special meaning to his clan, and the language of Godzilla is a completely new language for us humans. When different languages first communicated, they all corresponded to each other through objects, and I guess the name Godzilla is more likely to be a transliteration. Wonder, maybe Godzilla's name was there when he was born. I read in the Chaos Grimoire that some dragons will shout out their names when they break their shells. If they can't shout out, they will become dragon beasts without wisdom. Only those who shout out are worthy of becoming dragons. Wonder, the origin of Godzilla's name may be the same. Chapter 624, Uncontrollable Power. Image continues. 15 years ago, we found the fossil of another giant animal in the Philippines, very similar to Godzilla, but it died a long time ago, killed by them. Dr. Sarazora pointed to another screen. This is a parasitic spore. One is dormant, but the other has hatched. Dr. Graham explained. A mining company accidentally dug up their nest, which accelerated the hatching process. The newly hatched cubs dug a hole straight to the nearest radiation source, which is the Quello City nuclear power plant where your parents work. It cocooned there, absorbed radioactive fuel and grew. Until today. Dr. Sarazora said to Ford, it broke out of the cocoon like a butterfly and became what you see. After a brief review of the information, Ford realized the problem. Wait a minute, you already knew the information about that thing. You have always known about this thing. Why didn't you kill it when you had the chance to kill it? Ford is a soldier after all. He can remain rational and calm. He is used to death. He will not be emotionally disturbed by his father's death like ordinary people. He will attribute all this to Dr. Sarazora and the Emperor Project. But understanding is not the same as forgiveness. Moreover, Ford cannot understand them. After discovering such a dangerous beast, why don't they just kill it, but wait for it to hatch, and then make such a huge mess? It relies on absorbing radiation to survive. We are worried that killing it will release a lot of radiation and endanger the lives of thousands of people. So our mission is to control it, study its physiology, and understand it. Obviously, Ford is not convinced by this explanation. Who believes this? No one believes the other party's words. If it is to control it and understand its physiology, why do they still feed it with a reactor? And looking at the other party's appearance, this feeding is definitely not 1 or 2 days. Even if it is to prevent the other party from running away due to lack of food and causing trouble elsewhere, why do you have to feed it so much? Exclamation mark. Are you afraid of starving it if you feed it less? Exclamation mark. Research is correct. If humans do not have the courage to study the unknown, how can they make progress? No one expected that the person who expressed support was not someone else, but Hikaru. Mr. Hikaru, what are you saying? Peter, I know what you want to say. I'm just expressing my opinion from the perspective of an observer. Hikaru looked at Peter's puzzled eyes and said, how humans make choices is ultimately their own choice. But if humans really dare not take any risks to explore the unknown, then humans cannot make progress. Ace, but this is a very contradictory thing. If humans explore, they are likely to encounter situations that they cannot control, just like the mutos. But if they do not explore, humans will not be able to make progress. Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan, accidents during exploration, injuries during adventures. These are the frustrations and hardships that we have to face during growth. If we stop moving forward because of fear of frustration and the unknown, then the current human beings are still apes in the trees, and it is impossible to develop the current human civilization. Jonathan Osterman, Drive Manhattan, in my opinion, it is you two who are worrying too much. Wanda, in my opinion, they just want to study the mutos and master the power of the mutos. Imagine, how powerful would an army composed of tens of millions of mutos be? Wouldn't it be able to control the entire world? A monster army that even nuclear bombs can't do anything about? I don't believe they won't be tempted. Holy Lord, humans do too many things like this. There is no need to think about it. Kingdom of Light. The expression on Seven's face was the most complicated. As the one who loves humans the most, his feelings towards humans are like that of a father towards his children. If you say that you don't let the child go out to hone himself, then the child will never grow up in this lifetime under the protection of your wings. But if you really want to let the child go out, you will still feel all kinds of worries and reluctance in your heart. Zophie stepped forward and patted Seven on the shoulder, saying, we are not human, and we cannot interfere too much in human affairs, but I believe that one day, humans will be able to fly side by side with us in the universe. You have also seen that in the Ultra Galaxy legend, humans fought side by side with us again 10,000 years later, and humans at that time already had the ability to explore the universe. Since Mebius, we have never sent Ultra Warriors to the Earth again, but humans have relied on their own strength to survive for 10,000 years, and have cleared out all the monsters on the Earth. All this shows one thing, that humans have their own power and potential to soar. All we need to do is to protect them in secret from attacks by enemies of the level of Van Perla. The image continues. We know that it has an electric field effect on everything within a certain range, but what we don't know is that it can also use electromagnetic pulses to attack. Dr. Graham looked at Ford and said, but your father knew. He predicted it all. What else did he say? Please think carefully, Mr. Ford. Any words may be useful. Think about it carefully. Yes, this is the fundamental purpose of bringing Ford with them. Brody is dead. As Brody's son and the person who had the closest contact with Brody in the 72 hours before the accident, Ford is the most likely to provide them with enough information. But the answer Ford gave disappointed them greatly. I didn't pay attention to what he said. I thought he was crazy. He was obsessed with these things. About animal communication. What was talking? Ford suddenly realized something. He said something was talking. Ford suddenly threw out a term, echolocation. If the Muto was talking that day, Dr. Sarazor even took off his glasses. He looked at Ford and said, your father must have found something that was responding to the Muto. Check the data again. See what was responding. The one who responded to the Muto was another Muto? Yes, they said before that there were two parasitic robes. One had hatched into a Muto, and the other must be a member of the same clan as the Muto. If the Muto is not a self-reproducing creature, then assuming that this Muto is a female, the other one is very likely to be a male Muto. Chapter 625. War begins. A brother is on the way. The Mutos will probably continue to look for food, which is the source of radiation. We are monitoring all known locations. If we don't find one soon, we'll be in big trouble. What trouble? Nature has its own order, an ability to restore balance. Dr. Cerezola looked at the dorsal fin on the screen and said, I believe it is that ability. What does that mean? Kanata asked puzzledly. I always feel like Cerezola is speaking in riddles. Cerezola means that for the world today, the Mutos are already a thing of the last era. In other words, this world is no longer suitable for their survival. If the Mutos insist on taking action, other creatures will wake up and eliminate them. And the one responsible for eliminating the Mutos is Godzilla. Godzilla, I'm just cleaning up my old enemy. Bruce Wayne, it's the same principle. If the Mutos hadn't appeared, you would still be in the ocean now, right? Godzilla, that's right. Bruce Wayne, nature is balanced. Excessively powerful forces will break this balance. Obviously, both the Muto and you have this power, but you did not break it, while the Muto will break it. So naturally you need to get rid of the destroyer of this balance. Holy Lord, the existence of the Muto was still okay in the last era, because that was its era, but in this era, there are no giant beasts on the ground for them to parasitize, and there is no radioactive energy in the air. If the Muto wants to survive, it will have a great impact on this world. I suspect that the world also has a world consciousness similar to that of righteousness and evil. Holy Lord, in our world, righteousness and evil control the balance of the world. In the confrontation between yin and yang, one side may have the upper hand, but the other side will eventually defeat it, and then the defeated side will repeat this scene after a long time. Thanos. Moreover, the survival modes of Muto and Godzilla are different. The survival mode of Muto belongs to the predatory type. They need to plunder external energy, while Godzilla is a self-sufficient creature. The nuclear reactor in its body plus the absorption of external nuclear energy are enough for it to survive. Holy Lord, in the final analysis, it is you humans who are responsible. First, Godzilla was awakened, and then the Muto was dug out. Just wait and see. There must be other sleeping giants in that world. An era of giants is about to return. Godzilla, will other titans wake up too? Holy Lord, that's right. It will take a long time. From 1,000 years to a few decades. The sleeping giants will wake up one by one, and human civilization will perish in the recovery of the giants. Godzilla has no special feelings for human civilization. As for other titans, as long as they don't provoke him, Godzilla doesn't want to care about them. But there is one guy, he has to find a way to deal with it. That guy was very strong. Even with the help of Mothra, he barely defeated it, and then stuffed it into the ice to freeze it. Wait a minute, if he and the Mutos were awakened by tiny creatures like humans, then will other giant beasts in the future also be awakened by humans? If he took the initiative to destroy humans, would Ghidorah not be awakened? In the Pacific Ocean, Godzilla fell into deep thought, while on the mainland, in a secret base, a plan was proceeding in an orderly manner. A metal giant was being manufactured, and in another giant base, a 100-meter tall giant was hunting. Image continues. On the warship, a helicopter carrying Ford took off on the spot. They were going to send Ford back to Hawaii, and then Ford could transfer to a business jet to go home and reunite with his family. They actually sent Ford home. This time, the military's operation surprised everyone. You know, according to the government and military operations they had seen before, they should have put Ford under house arrest now. Could it be that, because the idiot operation was done by the Emperor Project, the IQ of the military has returned to normal? On the way home, Ford called home but no one answered. Ford could only leave a message for Ellie, telling her about his experiences in the past few days and the sadness of his father's death. On the warship, Dr. Cerezola was still comparing the sound waves, but the military received a message that a Russian nuclear submarine disappeared in the North Pacific. Ruling out the possibility of the other party's defection, it is very likely that the Muto attacked them. And the bad news came one after another. A special team sent back a distress signal northwest of Diamond Head Mountain on Oahu Island. The team was wiped out by the Muto, but before that, they successfully sent the other party's image. That was a bigger Muto. 2 Mutos? This Muto looks like the one that didn't hatch before. Bruce Wayne said, the relationship between the 2 Mutos is still unclear. They may be both siblings and husband and wife. The previous flying Muto preyed on this Muto, and their food was that unfortunate nuclear submarine. Diana Prince, they are both siblings and husband and wife. I didn't expect that the Greek gods are similar to insects in a sense. Yes, they are also called titans. Godzilla, there are indeed 2 Mutos, one big and one small. The flying one is the small one. Bruce Wayne, then, the big one should be a female. In nature, especially for arthropods, the female body is much larger than the male, because they have to lay eggs. The video continues. Seeing this scene, the Admiral said bluntly, don't expect to keep it secret. It can't be covered up at all. Prepare to evacuate. There are a million people on that island. Is it really the US military? I don't believe it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. At this moment, another unidentified object was detected approaching from the Pacific Ocean. The warship fell into a state of full military alert, and Dr. Serizawa ran onto the deck. On the island of Hawaii, Ford looked at the whizzing fighters and the descending special forces, and his ominous premonition became stronger and stronger. In the mountains and forests, the female Muto was still eating dry rice, and the fighters were whizzing over its head. More special forces surrounded the Muto. It's not easy to fight. Tony came to this conclusion after a brief thought. If he operated it himself, he was confident that he could deal with the Muto without any injuries, but if the army on the screen came, it would be a miserable victory. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.